Dear, time to wake up, get dressed, put shoes on, have breakfast, brush your teeth. Time for Disney adventures. Yes, today we will be looking at the September 1991 issue, which technically places this issue in August, hence why it says Macaulay Culkin goes back to school, because for most American kids around this time, well, school time was right around the corner. And yeah, Macaulay Culkin there is ahead of the game. That's the expression that every kid makes when they have to go back to school. Heck, that's the expression I'd have to make if I had to go back to school. And to make matters worse, Macaulay Culkin has Ursula as a teacher, which, given the current state of American education, would you really put it past them to hire a Disney villain as a public educator? Actually, come to think of it, I think having a Disney villain as a teacher would be a step up for most public schools, because at least Disney villains are dedicated to what they're trying to accomplish. And if I'm not mistaken, what Ursula is trying to accomplish here is trying to get rid of Macaulay Culkin before it can make The Good Son. Which, hey, terrible movie, but let's actually put the blame on the people who should take the blame, please. But yeah, there's Macaulay Culkin there doing the "ah" scream from the cover of Home Alone, even though in the movie, the "ah" was technically out of pain from him applying aftershave, and not actually reacting to the fact that two violent criminals have invaded his home. So Macaulay Culkin is the star of the issue, and also the issue promises us greatest escapes, kid DJ, and eco-pole inside. Oh, great, another reason to pry into my personal and political life. Plus comics, puzzles, and more. We didn't get that in the last issue, did we? They didn't say that on the last issue. Nor do they say that there are video game reviews inside, which, come on, that's the only reason why we buy these magazines, isn't it? Okay, so like I say, the school season is starting again, so this is an ad for some cool backpacks from Roma Kids. So you can get a backpack that looks like a locker or a cooler, and you can get a very big backpack, very big and bulky backpack that this girl is struggling to hold, that has a detachable and insulated lunch bag. Also, these kids have completely misunderstood the concept of a backpack. Who says going to school can't be fun? Ooh, I had a joke. I am not going to use it here. Look for Roma Kids book bags and backpacks at your favorite store. Well, my favorite store is the Dollar Tree, and I don't think I could find those there. Look on the back of the Roma Kids hang tag for a great free watch offer. Yes, so you can count every second of every minute of every hour of every day that you are at school, realizing that you are not going to remember most of that stuff by the time you're 21. Here are some football cards from Fleer. I believe that this is a different company than we've seen on other football card ads. Did we include these in that subscription crate I used to do? I don't remember. And being football cards, I have absolutely nothing else to say. And here's that ad for Chippendale Rescue Rangers fudge bars. We've been over this. I still want one, but I will never be able to get one. And here's our intro. Hello! Between everyone here at Disney Adventures, we've seen Home Alone at least 53 times. Well, maybe there are like 106 employees, and half of them have seen the first half, and the other half have seen the latter half. And that's the reason why they're all working together, so that they can know what happened at the beginning and what happened at the end. Because, this was before Home Alone was released on video, so they needed some help there. And we're just some of the millions who love its star, Macaulay Culkin. The days when millions could call themselves Macaulay Culkin fans. So we took our cameras and hunted him down. Luckily, he didn't use any fancy moves on us like he did on those burglars in Home Alone. In fact, he's just a regular kid. He fights with his brothers and sisters. He has sex. That's all there is. He shows off his muscles. And he does great imitations of Billy Idol and Mick Jagger. He's cool. He's normal. He's Macaulay. You gave us some questions to ask him, so we did. Enjoy the interview. Oh, and don't forget to adventure on, okay? Yeah, we've been making this magazine for about a year now, so we don't really care anymore. And here's an ad featuring the Mars Candy Corporation before they rebranded themselves as M&M's Corporation, M&M's Limited, was something like that. And how they are sponsoring the Olympics. Watching the Olympics is awesome! Well, unless you couldn't care less about the Olympics, which I don't. But watching the games with these snacks is like going to the pet shop and trading some of your mom's goofy jewelry for a really cool lizard. Well, if you're going to a pet shop to trade your mom's jewelry, your mom's priceless 24-karat jewelry, for a lizard that the guy just had lying around, I think it's reasonable to assume that will be the last thing you ever do. And be sure to enter the I Like USA game wherever you see M&Ms and Snickers. You know, I think nowadays you would have to hold a competition to get people to admit that they like the USA, because they're the official snack food sponsors of the 1992 U.S. Olympic team. Sorry, no lizards allowed. Oh, you're just being racist there then. Table of contents, whatever. Zip code, yep, we're back to fan letters this time. Last time it was just everybody sending in what they would take on a space shuttle, but this time we actually get some fan mail. So let's start over here. I am a 6th grader. I like school very much. My favorite subjects are spelling, math, social studies, and science. I guess my favorite letter is S because my favorite subjects start almost entirely with S, says Chawa Yang, 11, of Fresno, California. Well, what about W or Q? Or our favorites, D and A? Well, obviously D and A stand for Disney Adventures, but W or Q? I'm assuming that the W could mean writing or wrestling, women's studies, I don't know. And Q? What kind of subject would begin with a Q? The only thing I can think of are quizzes. Like those quizzes cruel teachers give their students to test if they've been listening. I liked May's Disney Adventures article on hydroplanes. My dad and I enjoyed reading about them. I've been to a hydroplane race. They're great to watch. Well, thank you, William D. McCone from Alpharetta, Georgia. It's even more fun to watch them miss a turn and plow right into the audience. You know, unless you were part of that section of audience. I like to draw. My friend Beth likes to draw too. She draws better than I do. This is a picture of me, on the left, and Beth holding up a piece of ice in front of Beth's house. That's a wonderful piece of ice, Beth and Beth's friend Andrea. I've known Beth since last September when my family moved to California from Rhode Island. Thank you, Andrea Lore, age 8, from Rialto, California. And we can just assume that you are best friends to this day, and, I don't know, she didn't cheat on you with your husband or partner or whatever. I got your new magazine. I like it a lot. I found an article in the December 10th, 1990 issue called The Big Mermaids. That was about manatees, if I remember. I copied it for my class. So far, half my class has read it. Thanks for the magazine. And thank you, Brandon Bolin, age 10, from Dallas, Oregon. Now they know who to sue for illegal duplication of their work. Hi, you guys! Hi, you guys! I love sports and I love to have fun. I love your magazine. I just got my first copy on Friday and I can't wait for my next. Though I'm surprised that they're printing your letter here because you're saying that you're just getting your first copy on Friday, which means that you've been reading other people's copies, which means that you are not really a subscriber, which means why should they care, you parasite? I am writing this letter to you because in Volume 1, Number 6, on page 80, there is a watch called the Chatterbox. I cannot find this watch in the store. Where can you find the Chatterbox in Dover, Delaware? Asks Nathan Harris from Tallahassee, Florida. Dover, Delaware. If you can't find the Chatterbox in your neighborhood, you can order it by calling this toll-free number. Yeah, I'm sure that number still works today and doesn't connect you to the other kind of chatterbox. But yeah, of course, they're talking about that watch that was advertised that could tell time and record things, and I think was also a shortwave FM radio. And again, I can find no proof that it was ever released. I can find no photos, no eBay listings. I did find a patent application, but that was it. I found a walkie-talkie called the Chatterbox, but that wasn't the same thing. And I also found a weird softcore sex flick from the 70s also called that, which is also the first thing you'll find if you try to Google Chatterbox. So yeah, that will be a wonderful surprise for any 12-year-olds who come across one of these vintage magazines and decide also to check to see if there actually existed a watch called the Chatterbox. And here's the segment where they admit that they goofed. In your May 1991 issue, on page 84, you say that the driest spot in the world is the Atacama Desert, Desert of Chile, but the arrow is pointing to Peru. As pointed out by Greg Villalobos, age 12, from Chevy Chase, Maryland. Yeah, in case you didn't know, Chevy Chase technically means like a hilly plain, something like that. So that's not actually the actor's real name. That's where the actor got it. In fact, there was a Bugs Bunny cartoon from the 30s where he mentioned Chevy Chase, and that's what he was referring to. He wasn't actually mentioning the actor. The actor is not some wandering immortal who just decided to make movies for a while to mess with humanity. Or maybe he is. I mean, he seems to have been around since time immemorial, so he might be. Anyway, thanks Greg for letting us know the light blue area shows the correct location of Chile. Honestly, I'm a little embarrassed that I didn't also notice this because, I don't know anything about world geography, but even I can tell Chile from Peru. Here's another one of those Chester Cheetah surfing ads. We've seen this one before. Okay, thanks. And on to Mac Mania. Yes, the interview section for Macaulay Culkin. A former child actor with one of the most unique names in existence. I mean, give his parents credit. I don't think anybody is ever going to confuse him with some other Macaulay Culkin. You say Macaulay Culkin and everybody is going to know exactly who you mean. Kind of like Dweezil Zappa. Though technically today, he is going by Macaulay Culkin. I am not kidding, he legally changed his middle name to Macaulay Culkin. So it's Macaulay Culkin. God, I'd love to see this guy's shipping address. But yeah, this is a kid who got famous for a co-starring role in the John Candy movie Uncle Buck, which sadly I haven't seen, I probably should. And he went on to be the lead in Home Alone, which gained him world fame and recognition. And then he was also in the movie My Girl, and that's where his film career took a nosedive. Because then he was in things like The Good Son, and Getting Even with Dad, and The Pagemaster, and Richie Rich, which turned his name to Mud Culkin. So much so that after Richie Rich, he decided to retire from acting and instead just focus on living life. During which time his parents ran away with most of his money, and he got addicted to drugs, found himself in trouble with the law a couple times, I think declared bankruptcy at least once. But then around the late 2000s, early 2010s, decided to turn his life around, get clean, get back in the game, feature on some stuff, mostly in reference to his role in Home Alone, including a fantastic co-review with the Angry Video Game Nerd, and nowadays he seems to be doing pretty fine. He has a comedy website, he has a comedy band, he was in one of the most recent seasons of American Horror Story. So yeah, way to pick yourself up, Macaulay Culkin. Here's hoping the rest of your life goes well, and you find some more stuff to focus on. Of course, if we're talking Macaulay Culkin, we shouldn't forget about the rest of his family who also act, including Kieran Culkin, most famous for his roles in Father of the Bride, and Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and movie 43, unfortunately, and currently has a main role on the HBO series Succession. So, hey, yeah, he's doing well too. And Rory Culkin, who's probably most famous for playing Mel Gibson's son in the M. Night Shyamalan movie Signs. And he was also in Scream 4. And then their aunt, Bonnie Bedelia, is also a longtime actress. Probably most well known today for playing Bruce Willis's estranged wife in the Die Hard and Die Hard 2 movies, and her lead roles in the TV shows The Division and Parenthood. And then, of course, there's also his sleazebag dad, Kit Culkin, who also tried to have an acting career. It didn't go anywhere. And he got jealous of his kid's success, was extremely physically, verbally, and mentally abusive to his family, and eventually ran out on them, taking most of their money. And the last anybody heard of him was in 2017 when he moved out of Oregon. Which, sadly, I can relate because I have a dad who, well, it was not as bad, but yeah, he ran out on us too, so yeah, sorry about that, Macaulay. Macaulay's a pretty unusual name. Ever get teased about it? Not really. Hardly any kids in my school know me as Macaulay. Everybody just calls me Mac. That's reasonable. But yeah, as I was saying, at least for a first name, Macaulay is very uncommon. Apparently there are many people with the last name of Macaulay, but in terms of somebody with the first name Macaulay, the only other person I could find with that name was Macaulay Langstaff, who plays English football. So he's known to the rest of the world as a soccer player. We know you're getting paid $4.5 million for the sequel. What are you going to do with all that money? I'm going to save it for college. Yeah, from what I can tell, Macaulay never went to college. Like I said, he had a very rough late 90s, early 2000s, where his dad left and took most of his money, and then his mom tried to take the rest, and he got hooked on a lot of stuff that he shouldn't have, so yeah, he didn't have a great early adult life. Well, college is expensive, but not that expensive. Yeah, but it's going up every year. Oh, God, can I relate? Yes, I used to go to college. That's one of the reasons why I can't go to college anymore. That's one of the reasons why I dropped out, because I just couldn't afford it anymore. That, and I figured that college wasn't getting me anywhere, and it would be better to just drop out and focus on other stuff. So, yeah, in case you haven't noticed, I don't have that great foresight. How do you buy things? When he wants to buy something, he asks parents for some money. Sometimes he gets it, sometimes they don't. That's good. That is good parenting. Don't treat your child star like a child star. Treat them like a child. Don't spoil them at that age. Make them understand the joys of saving and responsibility. Otherwise, you're going to end up with those trust fund kids that have never matured and are always being arrested or doing something illegal, and they keep getting bailed out by their parents, so they never learn. And then they usually end up running their parents' corporation, but they have no idea how to run the corporation, so they run it into the ground. And a lot of people suffer along the way. What's the best part of being a movie star? You get to meet neat people, like my friend Michael Jackson. Ooh, that's a thing that people would be afraid to state 5 or 10 years later. Actually, even around this time, I think Michael Jackson was having a lot of problems. You and Michael Jackson, the singer, are friends? Yeah, he's my best friend. We talk on the phone all the time. I mean, about 3 times a day. Well, Macaulay Culkin was also in the Michael Jackson music video Black and White, along with George Wendt from Cheers. So I'd imagine that they were talking about his performance in that video, how he was going to perform it, how Michael Jackson wanted to see him, how Macaulay Culkin wanted to do it. But getting some friendly conversation in there as well, because, well, Michael Jackson was just an eternal kid. What do you talk about? Everything! Like if we ever got to work together, how we'd set off stink bombs on the set. Silly stuff. He's building a water balloon fort. He's gonna have squirt guns, water balloon launchers. And yes, the launchers will shoot water balloons 60 feet. I can't wait. Michael always wants to have fun. Oh, I bet he does. But yeah, this makes me want to visit Neverland Ranch. Screw whatever that documentary said. And yeah, for those who didn't know, Macaulay Culkin was a longtime supporter and defender of Michael Jackson. All his life, even into adulthood, he was one who defended Michael Jackson's innocence throughout all his various scandals. Was he right to do so? Who can say? But it's nice that Michael Jackson had at least one reliable friend. You know, we should all be that lucky. What is the coolest article of clothing you own? He likes a pair of jeans and a red shirt and a black button-up shirt. That would be awesome if he was actually wearing that for the photo shoot, but honestly, I think what he's wearing is pretty cool too. You know, rocking that early 90s jean jacket with the cotton t-shirt and the bleached cargo pants, whatever that kind of pant is called. I don't know, I've worn jeans all my life, so I don't know what that material of pants is called. And hey, even his shoes are pretty cool. I'm in the market for some new shoes, maybe I'll get some of those. What's your favorite food? I love pizza, especially if it's a lovely cheese pizza just for me. There's your Home Alone reference. What do you put on your pizza? Anchovies? No anchovies. You put anchovies on my pizza, you'll be on my pizza. You know, I would rather resort to cannibalism than ever have to have one of those Dollar Tree Celeste frozen pizzas ever again. Actually, I technically have had anchovies on a pizza. Back when they had this make-your-own pizza place near my house, they had some anchovies, so I always asked for 1 anchovy on my pizza. I mean, I can't say that I was crazy about anchovies, but I don't know, just having 1 in the pizza kind of gave it a unique taste, something that I miss. I really miss that pizza place that used to be by my house. What's your least favorite food? Brussels sprouts. And, you know, the other usual stuff that kids hate. I was never one of those kids. A lot of the vegetables, in fact, a lot of the stuff that kids hate at that age, I had no problem with. I had no problem with broccoli, peppers, Brussels sprouts, mushy carrots, liver and onions. No peas, though. No peas. Okay, pea pods are okay. I like to dip those in ranch dressing, and yeah, I can handle peas if they're part of a recipe, like in a stew or something, but canned mushy peas, no. No, thank you. I have never liked those. I have also never, ever liked canned ravioli or boxed macaroni and cheese. There is no easier way to get me to throw up than to have me even be in the same room as those foods. You've just made a movie called My Girl. What's it about? It's about kids growing up and kissing. Also about Macaulay Culkin being stung to death by bees. No, I don't think I'm giving anything away. It's one of the most famous, dour, yet bittersweet endings ever put in a movie. Kissing. Have you ever kissed a girl before you had to do it on camera? No. Well, yeah, he's 10, dude. What was it like? You didn't throw up or have to leave the room or anything? No, it was okay. I'll probably even try it again with someone sometime. I'll probably do a little more than that if I ever meet Brenda Song, though. Do you have a girlfriend? I had one, but we broke up, so I had to settle for Mila Kunis. Is there anything you plan to do to get this new girl to like you? Yeah, I'm gonna go on the Joe Rogan Experience and defend the hell out of her. No, if you could be king of the world for a day, what would be the first thing you would do? I'd tell everybody to throw their guns and weapons into the ocean. They could use water balloons instead. To retain the naivete of a young child. What can kids do to make the world better? Recycle, don't get caught up in drugs. Hindsight, dude. That should help, don't you think? Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm sad you didn't take your own advice. But in all seriousness, you know, even at the time, Macaulay Culkin was a bit of a punchline. A lot of people like to make fun of his acting, of his personality, of his movie choices, and it didn't get any better when he slipped into the drug-using, near-homeless part of his life. But just based on this interview alone, Macaulay Culkin seems like a pretty cool guy. I wish that I had a friend like him when I was growing up. Heck, I wish I had him as a friend. Of course, he was like 12 when I was born, and as we all know from growing up, having to play with a kid who's a year or two younger than you is not friendship, it's babysitting. I mean, by the time you're an adult, most age gaps don't mean a thing, but when you're a kid, yeah, 1 or 2 years might as well be a whole other generation. But hey, keep going strong, Macaulay Culkin. You seem to have picked your life up, and I wish you luck in whatever you want to do. Meanwhile, we go to another child star, Ricky Rocco, Prince of the Airwaves. Every Saturday morning, 12-year-old Sam Rogoway pulls up a chair and talks to 10,000 of his closest friends. So yeah, it's a very young DJ named Sam Rogoway who goes by his DJ name Ricky Rocco, and he did a show for Portland, Oregon, Z100 FM. And that's all I know about him, because obviously the broadcasts he did back in the day do not exist today. But from what I learned about from his dad, David Rogoway, he operates a blog called Stumptown Blogger, where he basically showcases vintage life and vintage ads from around his hometown. And Ricky Rocco actually started out when he was 8 or 9, and like it says here, they were just playing around in the radio station. They made a tape of Ricky Rocco playing around with his voice, and one of the managers walked by and hired him on the spot. And unfortunately, I couldn't find out how long his career lasted. I don't know when he stopped doing the whole radio DJ thing. But if his dad and some very vague other sources are to be believed, he currently works as an entertainment lawyer in California. So, good for him. Good for him. And his personal playlist is Someday by Mariah Carey. Don't know that one. Actually, I don't know any of these. Oh, except for I've Been Thinking About You by London Beat. I've been thinking about you. I've been thinking about you. Yeah, I like that one. And it's probably not a good sign that that's the only one that I recognize in a list that includes Mariah Carey, Janet Jackson, Roxette, Wilson Phillips, and, well, MC Hammer. Still, I found someone else who likes that song, so Sam Rogoway now has my undying respect. Oh, here's some Disney collector's cards. Did we see this ad before? I don't remember. But I do know for a fact that these are things that we did include in those subscription crates that we once did. To create collector's cards this special, we went all the way to Pluto. Ha 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 ha, planet joke, ha 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 ha. But yeah, these are other cards that we got for dirt cheap, so we were able to put a lot of them in our subscription crates. Which either means that they didn't take off as much as they hoped, or they were too popular, and as soon as the craze ended, they were stuck with a whole bunch of boxes that they had to get rid of. But hey, I'm sure that at least 1 or 2 subscribers were happy with what they got. Now, in the Ticket Entertainment Guide. First up in music, we got Jasmine Guy, who was just funny college student Whitney Gilbert on NBC's hit comedy A Different World. Now, I was ready to write off Jasmine Guy as one of those flash-in-the-pan celebrities that everybody would just go, who, today? But no, she's actually had a pretty good career. So, like it says here, she was the lead role in A Different World, which was the spin-off to The Cosby Show. And from there, she's had recurring roles in a Roots spin-off, and in The Vampire Diaries, Grey's Anatomy, Between the Lions, recently Harlem. She was the voice of Ava, who was a woman who was obsessed with symmetry in an episode of Cyber Chase, which is a very important show to me growing up. And she was the voice of the co-star Sawyer in the cult classic animated movie Cats Don't Dance. And she still seems to be doing alright, still seems to be getting roles, so yeah, well done. And like it says here, she also tried her hand at being a solo artist, and yeah, that didn't go anywhere. She only had the self-titled debut album, which only cracked the 3rd quarter of the Billboard Top 200, and only one of her singles cracked the Top 40. So yeah, that part of her career didn't take off. But like I said, she seems to be doing alright for herself, so hey, well done, you have earned my respect. I don't know, somebody's probably going to point out something horrible she's done, but for now I'm just going to focus on the positive. Whose voice is singing the love thing? Everything I do it for you. Well, that's obviously Bryan Adams. You know, the not at all controversial rock star who actually ordered that AllMusic, a music encyclopedia, take down all mention of him from their site, and has never given a reason why. Like, that is some top-tier bullying there. I mean, Bryan Adams, come on, you have a lot of songs that I do like, but you are a terrible person. Speaking of movie themes, who sang the theme songs to Dirty Dancing's I've Had the Time of My Life? Now, I should know this because I really do like that song, but No, I don't remember who sang it. I want to say that Joe Cocker was one of the singers, but no, he was on Love Lifts Us Up Where We Belong, which was another duet featuring a famous aging singer and a relative newcomer. But no, I don't remember who did The Time of My Life. And then Dick Tracy's Sooner or Later, well, that's easy, that's Madonna. Short Circuit's Who's Johnny? I don't know that one, actually. I don't know that song, I mean. And The Karate Kid Part 2's The Glory of Love. I don't know that song either. I'm gonna have to look these things up on Spotify, I guess. Meanwhile, in video, yeah, they don't really have anything in video, just stuff that's coming out on video. So check out Shipwrecked and White Fang. You know, those two movies that Disney Adventures has really been trying to push, you know, with all those ads we've seen about the graphic novelizations of Shipwrecked and White Fang. And this is probably these movies' last chance at getting attention, so I don't know, if you want to watch Shipwrecked, then it's on Disney+. I haven't checked White Fang, but I'm sure there are so many other better adaptations out there, including the Good Times version. No, don't check that out either. And then we got Who Framed Roger Rabbit, all-time classic, of course. Animated version of Robin Hood, all-time classic. And TMNT #2 finally arrived on VHS, which is amazing because it feels like just the other issue they were teasing it coming to theaters. And you know, this is back when it took like 6 months to a year for a movie to finally be released on home media. And I know these magazines come out monthly, so what seems like a short time for me could be months and months and months. But it's interesting how the magazine was freaking out about how Vanilla Ice was going to be starring in the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and now it's going to be on video, without even a mention of Vanilla Ice. Guess the authors of the article finally saw the movie. By the way, which slime was slimier, this kind in the movie or the kind in Ghostbusters? Well, we actually saw the slime in Ghostbusters. I don't think anyone actually got slimed in the TMNT movie. I think the best we saw was slime in canisters. I could be wrong, though. It's been a long time since I saw that movie, and truth be told, I don't remember much about the TMNT movies in general. I just never had that much of a connection with it growing up. Sorry. Come to think of it, why would you want to be covered with slime at all? Write to us and let us know. Oh, I look forward to seeing those letters in the upcoming zip code sections. Next up is movies. Next year is the Quincentenary? I've never heard of that term. 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's discovery of America. Although you and I know that people were here long before he found it, right? Well, I sure hope so. I also hope that nowadays we know that Christopher Columbus did not sail to America to prove that the world was round. Yeah, that was a common misconception even back in 1992 with all the Christopher Columbus media, but no, now we know that even moderately educated people back in his day, and heck, for centuries before his day, knew that the world was round. In fact, you could argue that more people back then knew the world was round than, well, people today. To mark the occasion, there will be not one, but 2 movies about the big guy's voyage from Spain. Actually, there turned out to be 4. Yes, 4 movies joined the brief period of Christopher Columbus exploitation. So there was The Magic Voyage, which was an animated movie by Phil Nibelink, and it featured Corey Feldman and Dom DeLuise. And a lot of people may know it from one of the Nostalgia Critic's early reviews, and it being one of the most annoying animated movies ever put to screen. Like, every minute there's just somebody shouting, or some ad-libbed line left in, or some obnoxious musical number or sound effect, and yeah, it didn't do too well. Me personally, I loved it as a kid. I especially loved Dom DeLuise as Christopher Columbus. I think that's how I was introduced to him. Yeah, most people of my generation were introduced to Dom DeLuise through Don Bluth movies. No, The Magic Voyage was my introduction to him. And yeah, it's a terrible movie, but even as an adult, I kind of admire the slapstick and just the so bad it's good nature of it, so I can't bring myself to hate it. And sadly, that's probably the best movie in the lineup, because we also had Carry On Columbus, which was the final entry into the popular British Carry On series, which were basically low-budget spoof movies, most of which were only released in Britain. And Carry On Columbus was the 30th, 40th, some obscene number of entries in the Carry On series. I haven't seen it, but from what I understand, it isn't very good. Of course, most of the Carry On series was apparently critically panned, but audiences loved them, so I don't know, I guess they're just the British equivalent of an Adam Sandler comedy. And then probably most famously, there was the Ridley Scott project 1492, Conquest of Paradise, which is basically an overall biopic of Christopher Columbus and the impact that his actions had on the New World and Europe. And it also featured Sigourney Weaver as Queen Isabella. And yeah, that movie didn't do too well either. It was a light critical and commercial failure, so it wasn't even bad enough to be pushed into infamy. No, that was saved for Christopher Columbus The Discovery, which was a huge critical and commercial failure, even ending up on Roger Ebert's most hated list. And just to give you an idea of how misdirected that movie was, it stars Marlon Brando, Tom Selleck, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Benicio del Toro. Just that cast alone should give you an idea of how horribly off the tone of the movie is. Heck, like it says right here, at one point, it was originally going to have Timothy Dalton as Columbus, but he dropped out early on due to contract disputes and even ended up suing the producers for breach of contract. If that went anywhere, I don't know. I couldn't find any outcome. But yeah, in a year of The Magic Voyage, Carry On Columbus, and Ridley Scott masterpieces, that movie is technically the worst. Of course, to be fair, they're not all as much movies as they are just efforts to cash in on an Italian explorer who, in my opinion, doesn't really deserve that much fame. In fact, a lot of the country seems to have also come to that realization. I think that Christopher Columbus Day is actually being renamed to Indigenous Peoples Day. In fact, I think they've already gone through with that in many locations in the US. At best, Christopher Columbus is more of a propaganda historical figure. It's not in what he actually did. It's not in the actual impact he left. It's just he was propped up as this really important guy just to show the power of the European countries and the overall influence of the white man. I mean, you want to know who Christopher Columbus was? He was a small-time, self-educated explorer who was obsessed with the travels of Marco Polo, and basically had a midlife crisis where he decided that the best way to get to the Silk Road was not by land, but by sea. And if you just sailed the way opposite from Asia, then, well, you'd arrive in Asia eventually. And that's the idea he presented to multiple rulers of multiple countries, and each one continually turned him down because every scholar that they consulted all agreed that no, the distance was too great. Because yes, we did have an idea of how big the world was back then. We knew how big the world was, and we knew that the world was round. So every smart person he talked to basically said to his face, no, you are wrong, you are misguided, think about it. But he wouldn't take the hint. And eventually, finally, he caught King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella in a good mood. They had just won a war over their enemies, and they were swimming in riches, and yeah, they had a little bit of cash to help Christopher Columbus out with. So when they finally granted him money and ships to go find whatever he was looking for, it was less, oh yes, we are behind you, Christopher Columbus, 100%. We believe that you will be successful and you will achieve great riches. And more like, hey Queen, that idiot Christopher Columbus is knocking at your door again. Again? Oh God, I am so tired of, alright, fine, here's a little bit of money, go find some ships, some worn down ships somewhere and finally get him out of my hair, okay? Okay. So yeah, they sent him on his voyage, not expecting him to come back. And the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria were some of the worst worm-ridden ships in the harbor at the time. But he was happy that somebody finally listened to him, so as it goes, in 1492 he sailed with his 3 ships and finally reached what he thought was the West Indies. Yeah, about that thing about Christopher Columbus discovering America. Okay, number one, he did not discover America. A lot of people had already gone to America. They just had never thought at the time to call it an all-new continent. Including Christopher Columbus. All throughout his life, he was convinced that he just found a new trade route to the Silk Road and the Indies and everything. It wasn't until decades later when map makers and other explorers finally realized, yeah, the place he crashed into, yeah, that was an entirely different continent. Better put that on the map. There's something blocking Europe from China, so yeah, better let other people on the ships know. And then, of course, Christopher Columbus's brutality to the indigenous people is legendary. He basically demanded all their stuff, and if they didn't meet a quota, then he killed them on the spot. So he did manage to fill his ship with riches and many, many Native American slaves, basically beginning a slave trade between the Americas and Europe. And when he got back, yeah, he was treated as sort of a minor celebrity for a time. And then it died down and he said, hey, let me do it again. And they gave him some more ships, some more really worn down worm-eaten ships. And he went back and he did it again, but to lesser result. And he just kept asking to do it again. And all the royals kept saying no. And eventually he ended up in prison for debt. And, well, he died a forgotten man. It wasn't until much later in history when, again, he was sort of seen as this propaganda figure, just this very important figure in the white people's colonization of America. Which even that took a while to catch on, because following Christopher Columbus, everybody kept going to the Americas for gold, to search for El Dorado and the Fountain of Youth, and people went to these countries and robbed the indigenous people. They took back treasures, but to diminishing returns. Until finally somebody realized, hey, tobacco, sugarcane, we don't need to go searching for gold, we can literally grow our own money. Thus, the first permanent colonies were established, and then along came the religious persecution from the European states, and so all the Puritans and all the Quakers came to America because there was nowhere else for them to go. And then other people decided to emigrate to America because, hey, it was a big old place and Europe was getting crowded and maybe they could actually own some land and not have the king looking over their shoulders. And eventually that led to the 13 colonies, which led to England declaring war on most of the other countries until they owned all those 13 colonies. And then the 13 colonies responded by declaring war on England and gaining independence and becoming the United States of America. And, as we all know, the United States of America remained a small, insignificant country with absolutely no impact on the rest of the world's politics. At least that's what the Chinese history books will be reading when China finally usurps the United States in a couple decades. Yeah, that's what I believe is going to happen. Brand me a heretic and burn me at the stake if you have to. But in less political terms, we also have the Ernest Scared Stupid movie, which, contrary to popular belief, was not the last theatrically released Ernest movie. That was the last movie financed by Disney, but the next movie, Ernest Rides Again, was released to theaters, though independently financed, and it was a huge critical and commercial bomb, sending all future Ernest movies to direct-to-video. But yeah, whether you like the Ernest movies or not, there's no argument that Jim Varney, the guy who plays Ernest, was incredibly talented. If you don't know him for the Ernest movies, he was also Slinky the dog in Toy Story 1 and 2, and Cookie in the Disney Atlantis movie. And unfortunately, he died around the year 2000, so hey, even if his Ernest character wasn't always funny, the man could still bring a smile to your face. Meanwhile, in TV land, they're talking about Bozo the Clown. Yeah, well, everybody born after 1990 has the instinctive fear of clowns built right into them. Once upon a time, Bozo the Clown was one of the most prolific children's entertainment icons. In fact, I think the character had one of the first TV shows way back in the 40s or 50s. And despite children's entertainment evolving and adapting and changing with the times, Bozo has managed to stick around for decades. In fact, it says here that the Bozo Show, his last syndicated show, was still airing in Chicago at the time of this magazine's release. And even then, he was still hugely popular because, as it says right here, at one point, anyone who wanted to attend the show's taping had to get on a 10-year waiting list. And if you wanted to be on that show, then you needed to write to that address there and then wait until 1995. 4 years after this magazine to have a chance of being on the show. I don't know, I'm just kind of imagining all the 5 or 6-year-olds who would want to be on the Bozo the Clown show, and then they finally get the chance to be on the show, and they're 10 or 11, and obviously they're too cool for it now. Like, would they actually enjoy their time on the show, or would they just be, cram it, clown, and walk off set? I don't know, but what I do know was that Bozo the Clown was retired for good in 2001, when kids' cable channels became more accessible to the area. So, I guess that's goodbye Bozo, which, yeah, just by looking at him, you realize why so many people today hate clowns. Also, do you know who the first Bozo the Clown was? The role was originated by Pinto Colvig, who also originated the voice of Goofy and Pluto, and who also voiced Grumpy and Sleepy in Snow White. So yeah, man of many hats was that Pinto Colvig. It says up here that in the next issue of Disney Adventures, they're going to give us the lowdown on the new TV season, what's coming and what's going. So yeah, next issue is going to be a lot of fun. Will Family Matters' Steve Urkel ever stop talking in that weird voice of his? Well, first he has to do like 3 Sonic the Hedgehog TV shows, and then he'll think about it. Also, if you want to see some random episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation or America's Funniest Home Videos, well, they were on video in 1991. Speaking of on video, they finally released Home Alone on video. There's the Macaulay Culkin doing the scream. And it says that if we get the video, we also get a free poster. Relive the fun with this great burglar trap poster. Hurry while supplies last. Yes, I would love that. Odd poster. I don't know. Maybe it's just the resolution, but I can't make out anything that's on here. I don't know. They probably have one of these on eBay. Heck, they probably have brand new sealed copies on eBay for a pittance. And hey, if I act quickly, maybe I can also get that $5 Pepsi rebate. So yeah, you get the movie, the poster, and the Pepsi rebate, all for the low, low price of $25, which is about $50 in today's money. Really puts into perspective the people who complain about the price of those DVD, digital, and Ultra HD Blu-ray bundles. Anyway, here's our fashion corner for the week, or the look as they say. School days! Yes, this is what they're expecting you to wear when you go back to school, and I was going to ask if this could look any more 90s, but we have seen parachute pants and faded glory in previous issues, so still, this just looks like the line to audition for a guest spot on Saved by the Bell. Best thing about the end of the summer? Cool new clothes for school! They make a statement even before you do. Yes, the statement that you have spent $100 on clothes that your grandkids will tease you for wearing when you show them your high school yearbook. He told me the makeup test was tomorrow! Was that a joke? What? I feel like that's half a joke. Where's the other half? And meanwhile over here, Professor Microscope. Okay, as pun names go, that's not too bad. Blinded by the brightly colored fashion explosion, accidentally mixes the wrong chemicals. The students watch in horror as kaboom! Guess there won't be any science homework tonight. Yes, buy our clothes that will be instantly dated as soon as you wear them. Kill your science teacher. What more could a kid back then ask for? Anyway, here's our first comic. It's a Tailspin comic called It's a Plunderful Life, and I can already say that this is possibly the sharpest, most well-drawn comic I think we've seen since starting the Disney Adventures magazines. I mean, seriously, look at that. Look at the line work. Look at the colors. Look at the backgrounds. The first time I saw this, I thought they were doing that thing where they just take screenshots of a certain episode and then put them into comic form and add word balloons. Cinecomics, I think they call them. And I hate those, don't you? I hate it when they just take random screenshots of a movie or a TV show or something and just paste them into a comic format and add word balloons. And it's just like watching the movie, except you hit the pause button, then you go forward a minute, then you hit the pause button, then you go forward a minute, then you hit the pause button. There's just no artistic merit to those kinds of comics. And in today's on-demand streaming world where you can get anything anywhere at any time, they just have no purpose anymore. I mean, if you're doing like a Fumati comic, you know, where you take original pictures and put them into a comic format, add word balloons, then that's at least a style. I still don't like that kind of comic. I think it looks really awkward because as decades and decades of caption contests have proven, there is almost no place where you can pause a live action natural event and have it actually look natural. So yeah, I have absolutely nothing but respect for the comic artists who had to do their own take for movie adaptations, because back in the day, that was the easiest way to relive a movie without having to go to a rental place and get the VHS, if it even had a VHS. But as I was saying, this is completely original artwork and background work, and it looks like somebody who actually worked on the show. You know, and was given a lot of time to do these drawings and the colorings and the backgrounds. Because, as a lot of animators can attest to, animating is one of the most boring, thankless jobs you can ever hope for. Anyway, on with the story. Deep within the Iron Vulture, in the cabin of that ruthless air pirate, Don Carnage. I am telling you, Don Carnage, no matter what you wear, your natural good-lookingness is to devastate. Ooh, you evil plate of fashion, you! Yeah, leave the clone/fanfiction to, well, the fanfiction writers. Knock knock. Who's there? Hired goons. Hired goons? So, Mad Dog, how do I look? Devilishly debonair, yes, no? I don't know, Captain. It's just not you. I still don't know what he sounds like. Of course it is not me, you imbecile idiot. I'm going to be somebody else. I'm going to be a duck superhero. Maybe even a police officer bobcat. And in the Vulture's vast control room, "Attention, my men. We are about to put into momentum the most clever, most daring, most ingenious caper ever caped in pirate history. By now you know the details like the back of your hand. Let Phase 1 begin immediately." Ha ha ha, all the henchmen are looking at the front of their hands. Ha ha ha, they're all stupid. "I've been planning this for a long time, my minions. No bungling ups, eh?" Sometime later, at Hire for Hire, your cargo was delivered unacceptably late. We lost $20,000. You are at Louis again, right? Baloo, this is the last straw. You're fired. Actually, I don't remember what the end credits music was for the show. Becky, if you would just let me explain. Explain what? That you were struck by lightning, I suppose? That pirates attacked? That your plane was hijacked? What mighty battle are you going to invent this time? Oh, well, I was attacked by lightning pirates that hijacked my plane. Yeah, that's it. I run a business, and a business has to make money. You're a liability, Baloo, and you're gonna force me to do something about it. I'm gonna go hire Louis. I'm sure even he has a better work ethic than you do. No, wait, Becky. Save your breath. You don't think she'd fire me? I don't know, Kit. I don't know. Okay, I've made my distaste for Rebecca well known by this point, but dude, you just lost $20,000. 99% of employers would not only fire you on the spot, but probably hold you liable and sue you for that money. You would be unbelievably lucky if you could ever find a job in this industry ever again. Meanwhile, a freighter enters the Cape Suzette harbor with correspondence from distant shores. Inside this freighter, a crate. Contents of this crate, one pirate named Mad Dog. He has to go somewhere so he can bang someone so he can become Biff Tannen's great-grandfather. At the same time, beneath the waves of that same harbor, we all live in a yellow submarine. Jibber, stop panning all over me! You've got bad breath! And I can't just move like 1 foot to the left or something. No, I can't do that, no. And in a fishing trawler full of fresh jibberfish, we all fish on a giant yellow trawler. Oh, this is too disgusting even for me. I'm sure I'm 100% wrong with the voices I'm giving these guys. And high in the sky, overlooking the outskirts of the city, what a grand entrance I am making! Swift, silent, whoosh, psh, painful! And he used a glider instead of a parachute. Why? Well, back at Hire for Hire, we've gone the whole day without a delivery kit. Becky's not even talking to me. That doesn't mean you're fired yet. So go into town and buy every single rose and chocolate strawberry that you can lay an eye on, and that will decrease your chances of firing by, about 1%. Well, I sure ain't working. You heard what she said. I'm a liability. Again, I don't really have that much of an argument here, because I do have to agree with Rebecca. You're a fantastic pilot, but you have a lousy work ethic. Of course, look who's talking. Then what if you earned that $20,000 back and proved Ms. Cunningham wrong? Now that's a thought. Oh, repay the money that I lost my boss? Oh, I never thought that I'd have to do that. Later, in Cape Suzette Central Park, Excellent! We have completed Phase 1 of our dastardly plan. Soon we will begin Phase 2, and we will pull the wool sheep over the eyes of the entire city. Are there anthropomorphic sheep in this universe? What do they have to say to that stern saying? But first, dump truck, my loyal lackey, you stink like dead fishes. Go take a bath. But what about Mad Dog, Captain? Don't worry, he'll be here soon. See, when he gets to the post office, he's gonna open his crates with this crowbar I packed with him. The crowbar you packed with him? Yeah, this... Oops. Also, based on this pose, apparently he has a weird medical condition, where once he realizes he made a mistake, he can no longer control his bladder. And at the main postal station, I can't read this address at all. Let's try sending it to the north side of town. No, I think it ought to go to the south side of town. How about we send it to the east side of town? Make up your mind so I can get out of here. Now I need to find that crowbar.
Wait a minute, where's the stupid crowbar? Hey, someone let me out of here!
Now, you see, this is why you shouldn't have taken the last donut from the break room. This is just karma catching up to you, dude.
Meanwhile, at the office of Adrax Gornish...
Adrax Gornish? Is that supposed to be a pun or something?
Freelance employment agent. You're a pilot looking for night work, Mr. Baloo. I'll see what I can do. Great. Oh, and, I like to keep this discreet, if you catch my meaning.
Well, considering you have your tongue sticking out in this panel as you're saying that, no, I don't know what meaning you're going for there.
You don't want your daytime employer to know you're moonlighting? Hey, you catch on quick. And you're as transparent as glass. I'll arrange for you to meet a discreet employer at the Puree of Venice.
The Puree de Venice restaurant? That's a ritzy place, Baloo.
Yeah, we'll make a good first impression by meeting an employer there. You know, just as long as it'll meet John Goodman and decide he's a better Baloo than I am.
Are you sure this Gornish is worth his fee?
Look, I can't advertise without Becky seeing, and the job board can't help me earn more than 10,000 tops in a week's time.
Is there a time limit where you need to pay her back the money? I think that as long as you show that you're making an effort, I'm pretty sure Rebecca will accept, well, half your apology at least.
If I lose my job, I'll never get the Sea Duck back. What do you think?
He's worth the fee. So I didn't see all of the first episode, but was there like a deal that Rebecca and Baloo made where if he works for her for a certain amount of years, he gets the Sea Duck back or something? Because if that's the case, you'd think that he'd be a lot more careful with his work than he is.
But not too long after Baloo leaves his Gornish's office.
You are wise to come to me, Mr. O'Carney. I have just the pilot you're looking for. And we'll have to find out about that pilot on page 34, because they needed to interrupt the story for a back-to-school offer packed with adventure. You can get a Disney Adventures backpack filled with all these cool things. So you get the branded backpack along with some stickers. Oh, Lisa Frank stickers. Oh, you spoil us. Plus some Captain Crunch cereal, some baseball cards, football cards, a watch, and a whole bunch of candy. Value of over $30 for... Oh, cool. You can get the backpack for only $10. It says a $30 value, but you can get it for like, even in today's money, that is a good deal. Like, even if they were selling that for $20, $25, that would be a steal. And heck, they even throw in a 2-year subscription to Disney Adventures for $20 more. Yeah, I know a good deal when I see one. And, oh, there's more to it. How to get your Disney Adventures backpack? Well, fill out the order card, of course. So these are the things you can get in here. Skittles, yum. Lisa Frank stickers, fun accessories from Rosecraft Kids for great back-to-school looks. I don't really go for the scrunchies or the hair ribbons, but hey, send them anyway. I'm sure they'll burn easily. And then you get Fleer 1991 baseball and football sports trading cards, plus Double Bubble, Razzles, and Captain Crunch cereal. Oh, but you also get a digital watch, which I'm pretty sure kids in 1991 would be climbing over themselves to get. Which is probably why it was only available in the first 2,000 backpacks. Yeah, this is unironically a good deal even today. If I was a kid back then and I was old enough and I had enough money, or I knew that my parents would give me the money, then I would most definitely order one of these. Heck, even as an adult, I wish I could order one of these today. It would make a great unboxing video if nothing else. Anyway, back to our story.
Meanwhile, at the postal station on the east side of town...
The main office misread this address. This crate should go to the north side of town.
And the lid's coming off too. We better fix it. Did you just miss the fact that the crate was shaking around and screaming? In fact, you are two completely different employees from the ones we... Did we skip over a panel? Actually, skip over a panel, nothing. It's like they were trying to continue the story in this direction, then forgot and just said, okay, we'll do this instead.
No, I almost got it open. Don't do this to me. This ain't fair.
So I was going to say that this reminds me of a certain historical event where this happened to somebody else, but they actually mention it later in the magazine, so I guess I'll get back to that.
That night, while Carnage's men are busy downtown,
the Lucky Distribution Company, Diamonds and Fine Gems, also the Bank of Cape Suzette. Are they sharing the same building, or are they just like condos, like one side is the Diamonds and the other's the bank, or are they both one building? Because honestly, that's not that bad an idea to have a jewelry store and a bank in the same building. Then you can withdraw your money, buy some jewelry, and then immediately put it in a safe deposit box. Actually, that's really not that bad an idea.
Carnage himself goes to meet his pilot for hire.
This way, sir.
Lean on, my good man.
Does Launchpad's cousin here have a better or worse job than Launchpad?
Nice suit. You've been sent by Mr. Gornish, right? I'm Baloo, the best pilot you'll find anywhere. This here's my navigator, Kit Cloudkicker. I'd also introduce you to his distant cousin, Luke Skywalker, but, he lost him a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Well, he's putting on an Irish accent, so, okay, this is gonna be fun to do.
Well, it's a fine thing to be meeting you both. You can both be calling me Mr. O'Carney.
That's a great accent. You're Irish, right?
I.
Cartoon logic. Put on a hat, put on a mustache, you are a completely different person to even people who meet you on a regular basis.
So, you want to hire us for a few night deliveries?
Yes, or more. You'll be picking up sealed boxes at my various, warehouses over a period of 4 nights. And you'll be flying them out of Cape Suzette to Louis Island, where you'll be putting them in a warehouse I have rented there. You'll be given $15,000 when the jobs are done.
Did you say 15,000? You got a deal, Mr. O'Carney, but I gotta know what I'm hauling. I don't haul blind.
I will give you another 5,000 smackaroos to not ask questions.
Where do I start?
Smart man, today you will be hauling, dictionaries. Yes, boxes and boxes of dictionaries for the illiterate natives in Boridori. Where they cause, yes, no?
Okay, he's even using his catchphrases, and Baloo is not catching on, dude.
Dictionaries? That fella rented a warehouse from me to store dictionaries? Man, folks is weird.
Okay, now I'm starting to see the problem people have today with King Louie.
He's paying us a bundle to haul him here.
Yeah, and he laughed when Baloo put our dinner on his tab. So, did he pay for the dinner then?
Boy, being rich must be rough. Well, I think you're nuts to try this moonlighting gig, but I see your problem. I hope Becky appreciates what you're doing. But in this case, man, I don't want to be like you. So do I, Louie. So do I. Mere 2 hours later.
Okay, out of bed. We're trying a new system around here. This system is called a strict schedule, and it starts
right now, Buster!
Okay, Baloo's expression there is probably the first indication that, yes, this is a comic and it's not from the actual cartoon series, because that is horribly off-model there. Coffee, newspaper, you have exactly 3 minutes to enjoy them. Then I'd better see your face in my office reporting for work. This guy has one job, then 2 hours sleep, then another job. Must be a YouTuber. Well, she hasn't fired you yet.
Yeah, but now she's scaring me.
Well, again, dude, you lost $20,000 for her. You are very, 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 very lucky that she has not fired you and is not taking you to court. Besides, she made you coffee and got you the paper. That is incredibly generous for any employer to do. Also, she put down 2 cups of coffee. Was she expecting Kit to also have a cup? I mean, I know there's technically not a legal drinking age for coffee, but the kid's 12, Rebecca. I would say common sense trumps any legality here.
Elsewhere.
Hey, that is perhaps more fun than a traditional looting, eh, my man? That pesky pilot Baloo is working for us, and he does not know it.
Hee hee, ha ha, hoo hoo.
Ho ho ho, ha ha ha, la 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 dee da. That's how we left him.
Even the boy did not recognize me. They are stupid that way, no? My man, your captain is a bona fide genius.
And he covers one of his employees with an unidentifiable white substance. Wonderful.
A toast, my man, to the life of a pirate. Yo-ho, yo-ho, a pirate's life for me. Well, let us hope that Mad Dog is having fun too, wherever he is.
Help! Yeesh, it's been at least 24 hours since he's been mailed. I do not want to know what the inside of that box smells like right now.
The following morning, after the second all-night run for Mr. O'Carney.
Now then, our first job today is to pick up a shipment of toothbrushes to be delivered by 11 o'clock sharp. I want you to take care of that before the Choco Company candy run. Got it, Baloo? Are you listening to me, Mr. Staff Pilot with very little job security at the moment?
Yeah, right. No problem, boss. We'll get on it right away.
I hate to say it, but this is Rebecca at her most likable so far. At least she's not karate chopping her own employees and their stuff.
Come on, little britches. We gotta work.
Right behind you, Papa Bear. Again, the life of a YouTuber. They never warned me about employees like him in business school. Oh, they did me. They most definitely did me. The one of the first lessons I learned in business school is that employees are not machines, they're people. So think of the stupidest thing that people do, and you will probably get that from your employees. Okay, it was a little nicer than the way I just worded it, but still, that's something you should definitely expect if you hire anybody.
The day's deliveries go smoothly enough, and the night run, this one consisting of binoculars for needy bird watchers in Tasmania, well, it gets delivered too, eventually.
Will somebody please hurry up and invent 5-hour energy?
Yes, business is booming.
Tonight is our last night here, men. We shall not overstay your lack of welcome. And tonight, we shall take a prize I have always wanted. We shall steal all the peanut M&Ms from every single vending machine in the area. Society will collapse overnight. We will empty the dead letter office.
The what?
Think, por uno momento.
I did check, and that is how you structure the sentence if you want him to say, think for one moment. I know they didn't translate think to Spanish because that's not as much of a well-known Spanish word as por uno momento is. But the Spanish word for think is piensa, so it should be piensa por uno momento. This has been your unnecessary Spanish lesson for the day.
I know it is hard, but try. What do you think happens to all the letters and packages that get lost in the mail,
They're used for fertilizer?
Well, maybe if they had fertilizer in them.
They go to the dead letter office, estúpido. Picture it. It will be like Christmas morning. Hundreds of letters and boxes filled with goody goods of every kind. We'll get to read everybody else's mail.
Is it wrong to say that I actually kind of agree with his plan? I mean, dead mail is a thing. Not all letters or packages arrive at their destination or back to the sender for one reason or another. And then they just end up in one big warehouse where, after a while, everything is either thrown away or donated. So, yeah, they are kind of doing the post office a favor in this case. I mean, technically, yeah, it is stealing. Technically, it is illegal. But there's not that much harm to what they're doing. I mean, this is before they took all the packages and sold them at pallet auctions to whoever wanted to buy a whole lot of them so that they could divvy them up into like 10 packages a lot and then sell them on eBay. Which is something I bought and reviewed about a year ago, if you ever want to check out that video. So, I don't know, this actually sounds like a lot of fun. Also, I was wondering if there was a rewrite here, if he was originally telling them to go get something else, but then the writer-artist realized, oh crap, we left Mad Dog in that package. So they changed his plan to go get the dead mail so that they'd remember to go pick up Mad Dog. Or Mad Dog might still be stuck in the package at the end of the comic, who knows.
Baloo will transport it for us, and while he does, we will escape from this most generous city.
You know, how are they getting all this stuff to begin with? I think that would be as much of an interesting story as the rest of this. Oh, Carney's sure got a lot of warehouses.
Well, he's rich.
What? Do we haul tonight, Baloo?
As little as possible.
Okay, so I'm assuming that Baloo and Kit are on the other side of this store. That took me a while to realize. I thought that there was this huge artistic flub and they painted this whole warehouse, but they forgot to include the characters. But no, if they're on the other side of that door, then I can kind of see that. I can understand where they might be. But as soon as they open that door, they're going to see the stolen mail truck, and they didn't even bother to take the mail stickers off the mail bags. I don't know, maybe Carney came up with some excuse as to why they say mail, I don't know.
We are delivering mail to the unfortunate widows and orphans on some island that can't afford a post service.
Something like that.
Once airborne,
Baloo, this lightning's pretty bad. Maybe we shouldn't fly tonight.
This is the last run, little britches. We gotta make it or Carney won't pay us. Wait a minute. Carney, oh Carney, Don Carnage. Oh darn, I am such an idiot.
No, he doesn't do that. Instead, he gets struck by lightning. Holy moly! You know, lightning once struck right outside my house, and that was also my reaction. It was a much more crude expression, but...
That was a strike. Kit, go back and check the cargo.
Baloo, I think the cargo's checking us. Well, wait a minute. Where did these guys come from? Were they hiding in the crates or the bags? Why would they need Baloo to give them a lift to the island? I thought they had their airship. Actually, heck, who's flying their airship right now? Also, I was right. There's Mad Dog, so it was nice of them to get him out of the crate before they went back. Though it would have been a little funny if he was still stuck in the crate by the end of the comic. Captain, Dump Truck, Mad Dog, Hacksaw, Donkey, shut up!
Did a Don Carnage? What are you doing in my plane?
Sure as the name's Mr. O'Carney. Don't you remember me, laddie?
You mean you were, and we would have been...
Exactly, my dutiful dupe.
Well, yeah, I have to agree with Carnage here. Even in Baloo terms, this was incredibly face-smackingly stupid that you never caught on to the fact that he was Don Carnage. I mean, like I said in the last panel, just the second that you said Carney, which is something you call Don Carnage, that should have tipped something off in your brain.
And now you will smuggle us out of here as planned.
This is Shore Patrol. Verify plane and cargo. Over.
They have tightened security. Answer them below, and no foolishnesses.
Shore Patrol, this is Sea Duck. Over. Your cargo, Sea Duck? Oh, just some broken boxes. And some pirates.
Their skewered bodies were found in the ocean 3 days later.
I will hack you to itty-bitty bits after I get us out of here.
Hey, get away from those controls.
Sea Duck, you are ordered to turn back immediately.
Oh, Shore Patrol, this is the darling pirate Don Carnage speaking at you. I have prisoners. I do not think you wish me to kill them.
Wow, they actually said kill in a Disney comic. Of course, this is the show that has actual machine guns and bullets, so...
Patrol planes, pursue Sea Duck. No gunfire. Repeat, no gunfire.
Oh, well, that's what the show is most known for. Well, that and the occasional racial stereotype that even by Disney standards goes a little too far.
Gracias, Shore Patrol. Oh, your plane handles like a pussy gato.
Like, even in that context, I don't know if you can use that word in a kid's comic anymore.
No wonder you have escaped me so many times, you naughty pilot.
Carney, if you so much as scrap a wingtip, I'll... At this speed, it doesn't take long for the Sea Duck to reach Louis Island.
Oh, but how can we tell that it's Louis Island? Give us a clue or something, comic.
Iron Vulture, this is your captain. Come in, my man.
Captain, the island's being surrounded by patrol ships.
Hold your position, I am coming aboard. Then we will play mouse and the cat with these puny patrol ships, eh?
Again, I'm pretty sure that cats and mice are anthropomorphic beings in this universe, so what does that mean in this context? Like, do humanoid cats actually chase humanoid mice in this universe? Like, is that some kind of custom in some country that takes place in this world? That would be an interesting episode.
Not if I can help it.
Hey, what are you...
What did you do? I can't stop the plane!
That's what you get for hijacking a customized baby like this one, Carney.
And I don't even know if a plane can pull up from that angle, so... yeah, everybody dies, show's over.
Okay, here's a hint. Push that button.
I do not trust you.
You're gonna argue? You're in a panic. That's a panic button.
You will pay dearly for this, Baloo.
And the escape hatch is on the side? Like, the seat springs to the side and pushes them out the window. Who would make a plane like that? Usually the escape goes out the top. Why would you ever put it on the side? Also, that hole looks way too small for Baloo if it ever came to that. So, yeah, that's the most worthless escape hatch I've ever seen.
Now, if you boys are smart, you'll let me take control again.
Dude, you don't even have control of your own life.
Take it! Take it! It's real easy to correct if you just think about it. But once they've landed safely...
So they landed safely in the water, and the pirates just let them get out of the plane and swim to shore with the cargo? Huh, pirate honor. It's a dying art. The pirates are escaping, Baloo! We gotta do something!
That's the Shore Patrol's business. I'm only out for one of them.
Yeah, and for a second I thought that it was pirate firing upon pirate for some reason, because these are all practically the exact same model of plane, just traced into different positions and given different paint jobs. But no, the red plane there, it doesn't have the Pirates logo, so I'm guessing that's the Shore Patrol. But even then, all the planes are firing every which way, so I don't know who's fighting whom here.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, that bear makes me so angry. One day I shall feed him to piranhas, and then I will...
That's as far as you're getting, Carney. Mere moments later, the beach is quiet. The pirates have escaped. All but one. Man, what a night. I never thought I'd see Don Carnage in cuffs. We're grateful to you, Mr. Baloo. Kid here helped too. And so did... Uh-oh. Hit the dirt!
Ha-ha! Nice try, coppers, but you're no match for Don Carnage.
Did they forget to put a sound effect in the last panel? Because the way it's presented, it looks like he was thinking of Rebecca and how much trouble he is in if he doesn't get back to hire for hire, and then just all of a sudden the vulture shows up. You know, just a little bit of clarity here, guys. Just a little bit of onomatopoeia. That would have helped greatly here.
And as for you, my half-witted hirelings, you're fired!
I guess this means we're not getting paid.
I don't think he ever intended to pay you in the first place, dude.
The next morning, and then we were struck by lightning, and pirates attacked, and they hijacked the plane.
Hey, those are all things that Rebecca said earlier. Oh, right. And there was a mighty battle too, I suppose. Yeah, at Louie's place. You know, if there was an event that big and the police were called in, then there would probably be a news story in the paper that morning, so you should know this already.
We can prove it, Becky, to the tune of 25 big ones in reward moolah for recovering the stolen loot. It's yours.
So he only owed her 20,000, so technically he could have had 5,000 smackaroos on him. Probably would have gone towards purchasing the Sea Duck. Baloo, I don't know what to say.
Just consider me an asset from now on. I mean, who else could not get paid for working and still make a profit?
Hooray! He accepted reward money for all the stuff that he technically stole. Yay! Okay, but in all seriousness, this is actually one of the best comics we've come across. Not only is the artwork spectacular, well, maybe for the first half it does kind of taper off around the second half. It does kind of become more comic-like as the comic goes along. But Don Carnage had a great plan, and I didn't find a reason to dislike Rebecca. The story was well-paced and exciting. The loose ends were tied up. I guess my only gripe is that Baloo is so brain-dead stupid he didn't recognize his worst enemy when he put on a hat and mustache. But, yeah, you know, Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s. So yeah, definitely in the top 5 of best comics we've seen in Disney Adventures so far. But we still have to give it the customary send-off. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. And here's that 2-page Skittles ad again that we went over, where all these kids have sold their souls just so that their shadows can look cool. But hey, if there was a sign-up sheet to trade your soul in so your shadow can look pretty cool, then I might consider it. And we have arrived at the nature section, and instead of our latest Dushan Gershi adventure, instead we get to hear from Doug Peacock. Yes, Doug Peacock is a Vietnam veteran and current nature conservationist, especially when it comes to the grizzly bear, whom he actually credits as saving his life one time. So yes, he's dedicated his life to studying grizzlies and debunking myths. For example, grizzlies are actually very intelligent, and they're mostly vegetarians. That monstrous bear that you see in a lot of movies and shows, especially in that Alec Baldwin movie, The Edge, no, they're quite tame as long as they're not hungry or threatened. In fact, it says right here, contrary to myth, grizzlies are 80% vegetarian. They would rather eat grass and nuts and berries, and they'll just eat fish, elk, and insects when they really need to bulk up for the winter. And also contrary to myth, and this is very important, in fact, I think I might have already brought it up in a previous issue, but if a grizzly bear comes at you with intent to harm or eat, do not play dead. That just gives it an easier target. No, if a very angry or a very hungry grizzly bear is coming at you, then the best thing you can do is what Dushan Gershi did to the elephant a couple issues ago, which is to make yourself look very small and then at the very last second spring up and scream at it. And if you're lucky, then you'll scare the bear away. And if that doesn't work, then, well, you have 1 second to kiss your butt goodbye before it's torn away from your body. But yes, we pose more of a danger to bears than bears do to us, of course. There have only been 20 recorded grizzly-related deaths since people began writing such things down. And they're mostly endangered because we're cutting down their natural habitats and killing them off because we perceive them to be a threat. But really, like most nature, the best thing to do is just to leave it alone. I know you might be tempted to go out and kill all members of the bear family after having to sit through Brother Bear 2, but just leave them alone. It's not worth it. And Doug Peacock is still around, still championing the conservation of the grizzly bear, including a recent article where he protested the euthanasia of a mother and her 2 cubs because, well, they didn't have anywhere to put them. And he doesn't seem to have gotten himself arrested or resorted to eco-terrorism, so hey, great for him. At the very least, he's smarter than Timothy Treadwell, so that's something to be proud of. And now here's something a lot of you have probably seen, the butterfly alphabet, and this article is about how that came to be. That came to be because of Norwegian author and photographer Kjell B. Sandved. Yes, his name is Kjell B. He was originally Norwegian, so I'm sure that's just coincidence. But he immigrated to the States in the 60s and got a job with the Smithsonian, and from there he, photographed nature. He had a fascination with butterflies, and he decided to dedicate himself to finding odd designs on butterfly wings, including, of course, butterfly wings that resembled letters of the alphabet. An undertaking that took almost 30 years and required him to travel all around the world. But he did it in the end, and now kids' books and children's magazines, including this one, thank him to this day. In fact, I don't know, I might get in trouble for showing this. I'm pretty sure that this is an extremely copyrighted image, but let's hope not. Well, he also photographed some other variations of letters, such as the ones that make up the title here, and those look like the scream face from the famous painting of the same name. That looks like an avocado. Isn't there something actually called the avocado butterfly? Something along those lines. I'm sure that there's some insect called the avocado something. That looks like a little black dog. Hey, maybe it's Sirius Black from Harry Potter. And he found an 89. Not as nice as a 69, but still, nice. Sadly, Kjell B. died in 2015 at the age of 93, but he's written multiple books based on butterflies and bark and leaves and music, so I say he's had a wonderful life. The world thanks you, and the butterflies thank you for not killing them while you were photographing them. Here's another Starburst ad, and today they're promoting California Fruit Starburst. Yeah, I don't think that flavor exists anymore. Easy Eddie cuts loose waiting on the 510 local, backed by the latest jam from his man, Cool DJ Jazzy G Say D. Easy Eddie hangs loose at the bus stop, busting some serious moves. Yeah, serious moves like standing there eating Starburst, listening to his Walkman. People stare as Eddie hip-hops on the bus and glides down the aisle, but Eddie's cool, cause with Starburst Fruit Chews California Fruits, he really chills out. Well, that's a lot of stuff that I would have liked to see instead of this ad where apparently he is a jerk and flooding some rich guy's mansion. I mean, he probably deserves it, but I'd like to know beforehand. Also, I am in love with the photorealistic art here. I mean, okay, obviously the head is exaggerated and caricatured, but then you get to the fingers and look at just the detail. Look at the fingernails. Look at the dirt under the fingernails. Look at the knuckles. I love it when people put more effort into the artwork than you'd expect. In fact, looking at this whole thing now, this kind of looks like one of those AI-generated commercials. You know, the ones where the computer takes other commercials and tries to create its own realistic-looking ad. But of course, AI haven't quite perfected it. So, you know, some things look real, then others just delve straight into the uncanny valley. So, there you go. Starburst, prophets of our time. And here's the main focus of the issue. Today we are looking at great escapes, both of the magical variety and, of course, escape stories. There's the Houdini, who even today is considered the greatest magician of all time, unless you think The Prestige is a true story, which you shouldn't. Okay, here's a little bit about Harriet Tubman, the famous abolitionist, who was an escaped slave aided by the Underground Railroad, and then she became one of the Underground Railroad's most prolific conductors. In one of her earliest journeys, she went back to her plantation to free her family, and she was able to get away because she distracted the overseers by making them think that she was just a crazy old woman chasing after chickens, and she helped free her mother, father, and brothers. Not her sisters, though. Unfortunately, they were sold long before she was able to free them. And then the Civil War came along, and the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery as we know it, or at least being able to own a person-like property, and not through convoluted contracts that put them in indentured servitude for decades. And because of her color, she was hired by the Union Army as a spy. Now here's what I was talking about earlier. There was a former slave named Henry Brown, or Henry Box Brown, as he would later come to be known. And with his Underground Railroad friends, he managed to mail himself to freedom. So he snuck off the plantation, got a carpenter to build him a big human-sized box, sealed himself in, and his friend put him on a train to Philadelphia. And yep, like Mad Dog from the comic we just read, he was flipped upside down and sideways on the 26-hour journey to freedom. But unlike Mad Dog, he managed to make it to his destination and freedom. At least for a couple years before the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850 forced him to move to England, and then he spent the last years of his life in Canada. And I know life wasn't great even for a free black person back then, but I hope he was able to live as comfortably as he could given the circumstances. And then in 1962, in the final years of the prison island Alcatraz, 3 men actually managed to escape, in what was only the second successful venture. Yet contrary to popular belief, the more famous 1962 escape was not the first successful attempt, because in 1937, 2 prisoners named Cole and Rowe allegedly made it off the island as well. However, as happened to Frank Lee Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin, no proof was ever found of them successfully making it to land. Authorities found parts of their boat, parts of their clothing, and no trace of them. So either they drowned somewhere, or they managed to make it to land and live the rest of their lives under assumed identities. Who knows? There was also technically a 4th member of the team named Alan West, but on the night of the escape, he couldn't fit through the hole that he dug in his cell, and he was left behind. And thankfully for him, he wasn't charged for that as well. What happened to the 3 men who did make it out? Nobody knows. And honestly, should we care? They were convicted criminals with a rash of crimes before being put in Alcatraz. I mean, I know we like to romanticize this thing, but if you need to go to prison, then, well, you need to go to prison. And yes, we can argue about the merits of prison and if prison still has a place in criminal rehabilitation today until the end of time, but we're not going to. But hey, the best escape stories also lead to the best movies. Including this escape story, which resulted in the movie Escape from Alcatraz in 1979, Clint Eastwood, so hey, check that one out. Oh, that also reminds me that Harriet Tubman here also got a recent really good biopic called, well, Harriet, starring Cynthia Erivo as the title character. And unfortunately, the only other thing that I know her for is as the Blue Fairy in the live-action adaptation of Disney's Pinocchio. One of these things is much better than the other. And then there's this article about the French convict Henri Charrière. Charrière? Well, he was mainly known as Papillon. Papillon? Well, French for butterfly, because of the butterfly tattoo on his chest. Now, before getting arrested, this guy was a small-time underworld figure, and in 1931, he was convicted of murdering a pimp. So, he got sent from prison island to prison island, trying to escape each one, but eventually he got sent to Devil's Island, off the French Guiana coast. I think that's how you pronounce that. And yeah, as it says here, he made a boat out of coconuts with a friend, and he took a big wave out, and he eventually ended up in Venezuela and freedom. Well, technically he was imprisoned in a penal colony for about a year before finally being released, and then about 5 years later he was given Venezuelan citizenship, and, well, that's where he lived for most of the rest of his life. And yeah, he lived pretty comfortably. He was a minor celebrity, he did interviews, he opened restaurants, and he wrote a book about his life and adventures, which, of course, was titled Papillon. A book that a lot of people question its factual accuracy. Yeah, a lot of historians, a lot of prison experts, they argue that most of the book is fictionalized because the landscapes he described in the book do not match what the prison islands at the time looked like. Of course, Hollywood's not going to let the facts get in the way of a good story, which is why in 1973 it was made into a loose adaptation of the same name starring Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, and then again in 2017 starring Charlie Hunnam from Pacific Rim and Children of Men, and Rami Malek from Night at the Museum and Mr. Robot. I haven't seen either movie, but hey, I might. Sounds like an exciting escape story. And then here's an article about the 1979 balloon escape from East Germany by the Wetzels and Strelzics. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. But yes, back when Germany was split into the communist East Germany and the democratic West Germany, these families managed to make it over the wall into West of Germany using a homemade hot air balloon. Now, this article says that they tried twice to make a hot air balloon, and the last time, it didn't work, but technically there were 2 unsuccessful attempts before the third one finally worked. The first one, they used the wrong kind of fabric, and it wouldn't inflate. The second attempt, the balloon entered a cloud, and all the water vapor weighed it down, and they landed just short of the wall, and they somehow very barely escaped detection. But the third attempt, despite several seams breaking during the attempt, did manage to make it over the wall. Again, just barely. They were detected at the very last minute. But by then they had made it over the wall and East Germany couldn't do anything about it. Well, besides ban the sale of propane tanks and large quantities of fabric because, communists. And each attempt cost thousands of US dollars, and again, this was in the late 70s. Where working class citizens of a communist country back then got that kind of money, I have no idea. But, like the other escape articles that we read, they made a movie about it. A Disney movie even, called Night Crossing, starring John Hurt and Jane Alexander. And unfortunately, it's one of the movies that Disney wants you to forget that they made. DVD copies are very rare, and it's not available on Disney+. But it is how they got John Hurt to appear in The Black Cauldron, so thanks? And one final escape attempt story for the road, where in 1969, 17-year-old Armando Sacares Ramirez managed to escape communist Cuba by hiding in the wheel well of a jet. His friend wasn't as fortunate, but somehow Armando managed to get in the wheel well, was not crushed by the wheels, and then managed to survive a flight tens of thousands of feet in the air at temperatures well below zero with barely any oxygen. And even as it says in this article, he lost consciousness and plummeted out of the plane when it landed. But he was taken to a hospital in Spain and managed to make a full recovery, even regaining his hearing because of how loud it was inside the plane, and later he emigrated to the US, and now he's a retired mechanic grandfather who lives in Virginia. And actually, stories like these are more common than you'd think. Almost since the beginning of commercial flights, people have been trying to hide in the wheel wells of commercial planes. And out of the over 100 people who have attempted it, only maybe 20, 30 of them managed to survive. In fact, quite a few of them died soon after their attempt. I mean, just think about it. First, you have to get onto the tarmac and then climb onto the wheel well without being detected, which, nowadays is getting harder and harder to do. Then you have to position yourself in the exact right spot in order to not be crushed by the retracting wheels, which some planes don't even have a space that large for a human. And then somehow, if you manage to avoid that, you then have to spend hours, tens of thousands of feet up in the air at 50 degrees below zero with very, very little oxygen. You will pass out and you will very likely freeze to death. And then even if you survive that, the injuries you'll sustain when your unconscious frozen body hits the pavement after the plane lands will probably finish you off. Or you might never gain consciousness and die in the hospital a few days later from prolonged hypothermia and oxygen deprivation. But even if you manage to survive to somehow make a full to almost full recovery, what do you think is going to happen after that? You came to that country illegally, you have no documentation, so as soon as you're recovered, they're going to send you to prison and likely put you on the next plane out of there. This time you're actually going to be riding in the cabin, but you're just going to be sent back to where you came from, and you'll have to do the whole thing all over again, and it's very, very, very unlikely that you'll survive this time. Especially since whatever despotic country you were trying to get away from will likely have you executed as soon as you set foot on their ground. So if you're going to do this, then bring a rope, bring a face mask, bring a very, very heavy coat, probably very, very heavy pants and socks, bring an oxygen mask, bring earplugs because you will go deaf from the engines otherwise, and make sure that there's somebody on site when the plane lands, preferably somebody who works at said airport, to smuggle you off the pavement as soon as your body hits the ground. But if you do decide to do that and you somehow survive the journey, well, don't tell anybody that I'm the one who told you how to pull it off. And now here's an article about planned escapes, especially from the great magician Harry Houdini. Yes, he's a man that needs no introduction. He is considered one of the greatest magicians of all time, if not the greatest. He was especially known for his escape attempts. He could get out of any pair of handcuffs. He could get out of any locked room, any locked container. As it says here, he even managed to escape an ice-covered river. Now, if he made all these escape attempts naturally, or if he planned all the escape routes beforehand, nobody can say. But he was incredibly entertaining, and, well, that's what we look for from our entertainers. Actually, how he died is about as legendary as, well, the rest of his legacy. Apparently, he bragged to a guy that he couldn't feel pain, so a guy just started railing on him, just started beating him in the abdomen over and over again until he finally had to tell him to stop. And as a result, he later felt severe abdominal pains, but he went on and did a show anyway, and then right after the show, his appendix exploded, and this is before they had the tools and methods to handle that kind of situation, so yeah, he died of appendicitis. At the age of 52, which even for 1926 was way too young. But even during his relatively short career, he left a lasting legacy on the world, and even today, whenever somebody references a magician, they usually reference Houdini. And then there's supposedly a new Houdini named Dean Gunnarsson, who, like Houdini, is also a famous escape artist. He's done all the escape artist tricks that Houdini did, plus a lot more. And he's still going. In fact, in 2012, he received an award from the Chinese government for Best Magician. And for a while, he had his own reality TV show called Escape or Die, which only lasted 12 episodes. But hey, well done. Maybe in the next few decades, somebody will be referring to somebody who manages to escape as a Gunnarsson. And then finally, we have an article about Escape from Danger, where Rodney Fox was spearing fish off a raft in deep waters near Australia's coast when a shark decided to chomp down on him. Yes, he was spearfishing in a 1963 championship when, yeah, this big great white just chomped down on him. But as this article dictates, through a combination of previous skill and, of course, blind luck, he somehow managed to escape the attack. Though he almost died afterwards from how much skin was ripped away and how much blood he lost, including a lung having been ripped open and several arteries having been exposed. But he survived, and the experience has given him a lifelong fascination with the great white shark. Since the 60s, he's become the world's foremost authority and documentarian on the shark, and he's served as consultant on multiple shark movies, including, of course, Jaws. And he's still active today, including offering great white expeditions to tourists, so hey, well done. I'm glad you managed to drastically reverse the effect that the shark could have had on your life. Also that you walked away with both arms, which can't be said for all famous shark attacks. But here's some books about escape, and some movies about escape, and some museums you can go to with some escape exhibits, and I'm sure that they're all current, and I'm sure that nothing else has been updated, so hey, if you're curious, then go check them out. Here's another ad for DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp. I think we've been over this over and over again. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen it already, then go see it. And now, here we are at the Roger Rabbit comic. Yeah, we haven't had a lot of Roger Rabbit comics lately, and now we have 2 in a row. So, today's offering is... oh, it's down here. Roger Rabbit, Nuts and Bolts. It's been said that everybody should have a hobby, even toons. Then again, maybe not. Case in point. And here's Roger working on a... whatchamadoogle. I'm sure that's even the correct term for it. Actually, I'm more impressed with the shadow work behind him. Well done, artist. Who's the artist? Bill Langley. Okay, so well done, Bill Langley.
Oh joy, it's just about ready. Just one last little doohickey to fix, and I can steamroll all the dinosaurs.
Oh, I mean it violently spins them around.
Yes, sirree, that ought to do it. You know, being smart really smarts.
Yeah, if you try anything for the first time, it's gonna hurt.
Gee willikers, I really did it. It's ready. A boon to humanity. A Crockett to science.
Ha ha, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, ha 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 ha.
I wish I could remember what it's supposed to do. Oh well, with all the stuff in it, it's bound to do something.
So, wait, did you build this yourself, or did you buy a kit? Is there some kind of kit? Well... okay, so it's supposed to be the interocitor, whatever that means. I don't see any kit he could have taken it out of, so I guess he drew up those plans himself? That's uncharacteristically genius of Roger.
There's one way to find out. Just push the button. Boom.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bop. Oh, no, wait, I mean, click.
Zoop. Ah! Oh yes, now I remember. It's my anti-gravity ray. Switch off.
Well, there you go. Patent it, sell it to the space program, retire as the first toon millionaire.
You know, sometimes I don't think the world is quite ready for anti-gravity. So what do I do now? What I need now is a better person than ZC Infinity to do an impression of my voice. Oh, I mean, ding! Yeah, ha ha ha, Candle, ha ha, he's not that bright. Well, except he built the thing, so yeah, he's unbelievably bright. Of course, he doesn't know what to do with it, so, you know, who says that smart people can also be stupid? And so, wham, 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 wham! And one new antenna, and Viola, the enlarge array! It will replace Viagra, even before Viagra exists! Enlarge array! Oh! Uh-oh! Too big! Better switch off!
That's a good idea, Roger. Being that enlarged for more than a couple hours can lead to serious side effects. But
I know what I did wrong. All I gotta do is turn it over and reverse the polarity. Now let's try that again. Switch on. Now what?
Well, now you have a mansion to rival Howard Hughes, so I am very jealous of you now. Of course, I don't think you could keep up on the property taxes with your salary.
Ow! Bob, what have I done? I didn't mean to be a mad scientist. I killed one maybe, but not mad.
Oh, you want to see mad? Just wait until the multiple residents of those several blocks you just bulldozed come knocking at your door.
Well, if at first you don't succeed, that ought to do the trick. Now it's the shrink array. Now to go find Paul Rudd and test it out on him. I'll just tighten this last bit here and... You know, I think I missed something. Well, again, I can still test this on Paul Rudd. Oof, at last, I'm shrinking to normal. For a minute there, I was too big for my britches.
Well, you can barely fit into your britches to begin with, so...
Now what else needs to be invented? Color television? No, I need crayons for that.
Yeah, as a reminder, this is the 1940s when television was just hitting the commercial market. So color television wouldn't be around for another 2 or 3 decades. But if you're thinking of something to invent, then how about a gadget that turns water into gasoline? You'll solve the fuel crisis overnight.
Eureka! Now it's a duplicator! Just switch on and...
Well, I mean, if it's able to make metal and electronics from literally nothing, then, again, you're gonna solve multiple crises there.
Switch off! Switch off! Off! Please! There must be something I can invent! Transistor radios? Nah, I don't have a sister. Or a brother.
I'm pretty sure that you mentioned that you did have a sister and a brother, and multiple cousins. Okay, maybe that was just a gag for the Baby Herman short, but technically there was a book-only sequel to Who Framed Roger Rabbit written by the original author of Who Censored Roger Rabbit, the book that would later become Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It was called Who Plugged Roger Rabbit, and he actually did have a brother in that who violently died.
Well, it's ready! My electrofibrillator!
You're gonna cure heart palpitations? I guess hospitals around this time are ready for that.
Let's see now! Switch on!
And he turns into Donald Duck. Ah. Oh boy, I can't do a Donald Duck voice to save my life.
Wah! I'll be doggone! Nothing happened!
And thankfully he's normal in the next panel, so I don't have to keep that up.
I guess I'd better invent something I can spell.
Okay, invent Eve, so that Wally will have somebody to talk to.
This is it! This is really it! The Inviso-Ray!
That's something that he can spell?
Click!
What is he looking at his foot for? What does his foot have to do with turning invisible? His foot is not turning invisible. Or, oh, maybe it's supposed to make him invisible. Maybe he's curious why it's not making him invisible. Because it doesn't make him Why are there eyes in his mouth? What has he been eating? Well, of course, it's Toontown where everything is alive, so technically just by having a salad, he's cannibalizing something. But yeah, it doesn't turn him invisible, it turns everything else invisible.
Well, what do you know? It works! Everything is invisible! Well, one more flick of the switch, and zoop! This is a terrible situation! I'm trapped in a boundless blank! Well, at least I still got my pencil. This could take a while, folks. See you next month.
Yeah, I wonder if there is another Roger Rabbit comic next month. We have been getting quite a few of them lately, and yeah, they are some of the funniest comics we've been getting. And here's an ad for Lisa Frank stuff. You know, that person and her company who are well known for making brightly colored, kitschy school supplies and clothing accessories for kids, and who's still around today, though it's nothing compared to the impact that they had in the 90s. Like, this stuff was everywhere because everybody was just obsessed with bright pink in the early 90s. And if you think the company is as sugary and joyful as their merchandise, you couldn't be any more wrong. It's considered one of the worst companies to work at. One of the most abusive environments ever. Anyway, here's an article about rainbows. I don't really have anything to say about it. It's just about rainbows. We know what rainbows are. We've learned what makes a rainbow way back in kindergarten. Heck, probably preschool. It's just the sun shining through wet air, which breaks up the light into its many colors. And the moisture of the air at the time will determine how many colors you will see in that rainbow. Well, unless you're like on ecstasy at the time or something, in which case you will see all the colors, plus many colors that man was not supposed to see. And here's a way to make your own rainbow, of course. Hold up a garden hose and spray it in front of the sun. If you have never seen a rainbow, well, don't tell that to Mabel, otherwise she's going to reflect a rainbow off the Gravity Falls and shoot it through your window and instantly blind you. But she did teach us that color was invented in the 30s by a magical wizard, so hey, at least you get something good out of the experience. And here's another one of those sales club things that we discussed in an earlier issue, and I was really hoping that around this time the magazine would have realized that this was a scam, this was some kind of fly-by-night operation, and therefore refused to print any more ads. But nope, here we go. And this looks like it has different stuff than the last time we went over, so hey, let's go over it again. Why not? So what can we get if we sell Olympic stuff? Well, allegedly get, because once again, I would be very, very, very surprised if this company ever paid out. Please, if anybody has ever gotten anything from these kinds of organizations, please let me know. But yes, let's see, what kind of things can we work towards? We can get an Ansco camera outfit. Okay, that's pretty good. All-Star baseball card collecting kit. Well, I can see that being very popular in the 90s. Fishing outfit. Yeah, I could go for that. Wilson tennis set. Oh, you're gonna make Tom Hanks really upset. Conair Wild Thing hairdryer. I don't know, were they actually expecting to target young women as salespeople? Because even for the early 90s, that wasn't really a target. These things were usually meant for young boys. So, and I don't know if young boys would be that interested in a hairdryer. Well, unless they still had a mullet, which, yeah, it was the early 90s. Swiss Army knife and sheath. Yeah, that's something to work forward to. A Tasco telescope. Yeah, that could be popular. Ken Brown calligraphy marker set. I think we already went over something like that in the last ad, which I don't know. I can't see anybody being interested in that one. Microscope lab. Yeah, not bad. Lil Fridge stationery set. Yeah, they offered that before, and no, that sounds terrible. That sounds cheap and terrible. New Kids on the Block bag. Oh, I'm sure every kid of the early 90s would be climbing over themselves to get one of those. 3-person dome tent. Yep, that's something to work forward to. Bell sound see-through phone. Well, yeah, I could see somebody being excited about that, but good luck convincing your parents to install a new phone line. Magic show set from the Magic World of Blackstone. Yeah, I could see a little bit of interest in that. I've never been interested in learning magic, but I'm sure somebody does. GE walkie-talkie set. Yeah, I was excited about walkie-talkie sets way back when. I could be excited about that. These are, of course, not the overpowered walkie-talkie sets like the kids from Stranger Things have, but I'm sure they got decent range back then. Coke phone, unfortunate name for it, but yeah, that could be interesting. Spalding jam session bag. Yeah, that could be fun to take to school. Timex calculator alarm watch. Oh God, yeah, that would be to have one of those as a kid in the 90s. You would be the coolest kid on the block. Volterra skateboard, again, coolest kid on the block. Wiz personal locker. Yeah, that could be fun. Sony music CDs and cassettes. We went over this before. I think those are the exact same artists. I think these are just one-hit wonders that they couldn't get rid of even if they paid you. So of course they just stuffed them in some low-attention sales club. Save Your Snow and Surf Tube. Yeah, that could be fun. Loris Chrono Alarm Watch. Well, we already have the calculator watch, so I don't see the sense in that watch. I don't know, maybe it's a better brand. Savoy Mountain Bike. Oh, yeah, everybody would want one of those, absolutely. Unisonic see-through answer machine. Well, like the see-through phone, yeah, that would definitely be something interesting to keep around, but are your parents going to allow you to hook that up? Walkman, of course, that's always popular, especially back then. Wilson Michael Jordan basketball. Well, it depends on if you're a Michael Jordan fan. I don't know, maybe there are more Charles Barkley fans out there. Have you thought of that? Fashion one-person boat, that would be fun, along with the tube. Unisonic hot number solar calculator. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I mean, even if you needed it for, like, school, then I think that most schools would provide you with a calculator, but even if they didn't, I think you could still get a calculator like that dirt cheap even back then. Dual cassette AM FM stereo. Yes, definitely. That would definitely make a lot of kids back then excited. And like I said before, it would definitely make a lot of UK kids happy because now they can copy all their friends' Commodore 64 tapes. Action game system, the NES. Yeah, that was kind of on its last legs from around this time, but games were still being released for it, so hey, that would still be exciting to have around. GE cordless telephone. Yes, most definitely. Remember the days when having a telephone not connected to the wall was one of the best things that you could ever own in your life? Wilson Arian soccer ball. Well, if you're into soccer, why not? Little gumball bank. I had a little gumball bank growing up. It was fun. Didn't really get much use out of it, but it was fun. Digital clock. Yeah, that would be fun. Crayola aquarium. That just looks like they took one of those Crayola novelty banks and molded it with transparent plastic and said, okay, it's now an aquarium. You know, it wasn't selling as a novelty bank or as a crayon holder, but put your fish in it. Why not? It hasn't been designed for aquatic life, but hey, gotta sell it somehow. Rhapsody electronic keyboard. I had a little keyboard growing up. That was a lot of fun. GE telephone clock radio. Oh, absolutely. That would be fantastic. Beat sound electronic drum. I guess as a fun little novelty. GE clock radio. Yeah, a lot of preteens and especially teens would be getting a lot of use out of that. And of course, Nintendo game cartridges for the NES, which, like I said, they couldn't technically call a game console because even back then, the term game console was marketing poison because of the whole video game crash of 1983. It wasn't until around the Super Nintendo when finally everybody had calmed down and video game consoles are cool again. But these are the same games that we saw before. You can get Double Dragon or NBA Finals, NCAA Finals. I don't know, it's too blurry to tell. Me personally, I would keep it wrapped in its plastic and hide it in a closet for 20-30 years and then sell it on eBay for $8,000. Of course, back then, nobody knew how big internet commerce would become. Heck, barely anybody even knew what the internet was. And that's why new things of these sorts of things are hard to come by. Nobody knew to hoard them away until a future date when somebody would be asking for that much money. So yeah, sell their leftover Olympic products and get $2 cash profit on every item or great prizes that are easier to get. Well, first you gotta find some sucker who will buy all these items for $2 more than what you bought them for. Like I say, in this pyramid scheme, you're the sucker. But if you want to try it, then call that number and ask for Pearl. Is Pearl in on this scheme? I have no idea, but don't call that number. The number is probably not even being used, and even if it is, I'm pretty sure it will lead you to a certain service that offers a different kind of Pearl. And I will be demonetized if I explain what kind of Pearl. But here's our quick cyber facts. Caterpillars have about 2,000 muscles. People have fewer than 700. Well, yeah, but caterpillars have like 100 legs, so of course they're going to have more muscles than humans. House of sand, a brick wall, and a plate glass window are made from the same thing, sand. So when a brick gets thrown through a plate glass window, is that their equivalent of a civil war? During your lifetime, you eat 60,000 pounds of food. That's about equal to the weight of 6 elephants. And in some countries, some of those pounds of food were probably elephants. And here's an ad for Just for Kids, which is such a generic company name, I can't find much information on them. They may or may not be related to the Just for Kids video imprint, which basically redistributed little-known animated features and movies for kids or English dubs of international animated movies and shows, including a couple Godzilla films, surprisingly enough. Personally, I remember the logo from my VHS copy of Scamper the Penguin. You know, the version that removed all the blood and death and abuse that the original was known for. Which I didn't know about for quite some time. I mean, I grew up on that video and I didn't know that the original was so dark. But yeah, this company may or may not be that same company. I can't tell. They don't use the same logo that the videos did. But they offer things just for girls, like super shades, bright barrettes, and silly socks. Or they offer things just for boys, like jet-powered boats and a firefighter walkie-talkie. Or just for kids in general, with hot neon caps and surf dude sneakers and a hop and bop pogo stick. The days when only two genders were recognized and the boundaries sectioning off certain things for each gender were much more pronounced. Didn't you just hate that time? And we've arrived at the video game review section, and yeah, not that great a selection this month either. Though we do have some kinda sorta notable titles here. First up, we have Hardball for the Sega Genesis. If you enjoy playing baseball, Hardball will give you a taste of the pros. This is a highly detailed game with digitized voices and sound effects. Select your team, manage players, and work your way towards the World Series. In this game, you control the action. As pitcher, you select from 9 different pitches. To manage your team, you can choose your lineup based on each player's stats. The more you know about real-life baseball, the better you'll perform in Hardball. Tip: when the pitcher's speed slows down, usually after 50 to 80 throws, send in a replacement. Oh, so it's not measured by a juice meter like in backyard baseball? So I've never played Hardball. In fact, I've only barely heard about it before. I think I've only heard about it once or twice. I only knew that it was a baseball game. But apparently for the time, it was one of the best, most detailed baseball and baseball manager games out there. The problem is they're technically reviewing a 6-year-old game. Yeah, it was originally released in 1985 for the Commodore 64 and Atari 8-bit computers. And then around 1991, they finally released it to the Sega Genesis. And that was the only console release. Now, having never played it, I don't know how well they converted it from an 8-bit computer game to a 16-bit console game. But I have heard pretty good things about it, and like they say, they give it a 4.5. And yeah, to have digitized voice clips and sound effects in a 16-bit game was novel for the time. So, hey, I can believe that they did a relatively good update of the game. Personally, and I think I've brought this up before, the only baseball game I ever got into... Oh, okay, technically there are 2 baseball games that I ever got into. The first one was Backyard Baseball for the PC. I got that one out of a cereal box. Yeah, remember when they used to do that? Remember when they used to include promo CDs and DVDs and games in cereal boxes, and sometimes they'd even include full movies and games? God, I miss those days. But yeah, Backyard Baseball was fun. I was actually relatively obsessed with it back in the day. I mean, it's a baseball game, so it's one of the most boring sports in the universe, but I liked the cartoony aspect. I loved the hand-drawn cell graphics. Loved the personalities they gave each of the teammates. It was a lot of fun. I didn't get as much fun out of the later releases, out of the later entries in the series. And especially not from the plug-and-play version, which I have played and I have recorded. It is on my channel somewhere. And you can see for yourself just how boring and badly programmed that monstrosity was. And then the other one was Tengen's RBI Baseball for the NES. My mom and I used to play that all the time, and that was basically the only way you could play that, 2-player, because the computer opponent in single-player on that game was too well programmed. It was perfectly programmed. You had absolutely no chance of winning a game against that computer opponent. But again, that baseball game gave me a baseball experience like I've never seen in any other baseball game. I liked how fluid the graphics were. I liked how you could position the bat anywhere. I liked the color schemes of the players, and yeah, I'm never going to get the soundtrack out of my head. It has one of the best 8-bit versions of Well, I want to call it The Other Day I Met a Bear, a great big bear, away up there, and so I ran away from there, but right behind me was the bear. But what is the song called when it's used in that instance? I don't know, but it will forever remain in my head. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-da-dum-bum. And then there was a bum bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum. But anyway, that and Backyard Baseball were the only two baseball games I could really get into. I did play Mario Super Strikers, is that what the GameCube game was called? And I could never get into that game. I could never figure it out. I kept losing, so. And then I have some baseball games for the Xbox, and once again, I just couldn't get into them. I couldn't figure out the secret behind them, and yeah, I just have not found a baseball game that's worth my time. But anyway, Hardball, allegedly the best baseball game of its time, and if you like Hardball and you like Genesis, maybe you'll like Hardball on Genesis. And then we have Snow Bros, or as they have erroneously written it out as Snow Brothers. I don't know why they called it Snow Brothers, because it's obviously supposed to be Snow Bros. Get it? It flows a lot more naturally. But yeah, Snow Brothers is a kinda, sorta, semi-famous arcade game, which is basically a clone of Bubble Bobble. Except instead of a dragon shooting bubbles at enemies, you're a... Well, let's read it and see what they say. Princes Nick and Tom have been turned into snowmen by an evil king. Now the king is trying to take over Whiteland and Snowland. It's up to Nick and Tom to throw snowballs at the enemies in the 10 stages of this fast-paced game. The object is to save the princesses being held hostage. Tip: once a troll, red devil, or dragon has been turned into a giant snowball, Nick or Tom can push the snowballs into other evil creatures. At the beginning of each stage, they can jump to the top level and drop a giant snowball down. So yeah, as I was saying, it's basically a Bubble Bobble clone, except instead of dragons blowing bubbles, you're a snowman throwing snowballs at enemies, and then once you completely cover an enemy in snow, you can push them into another enemy to defeat them. And it just goes on like that for... like 50 or 60 stages, depending on what version of the game you're playing. I don't know where they got the 10 stages. I think they accidentally misread the promotional about the game and thought that the 10 bonus stages that they were adding on to some versions of the console game were all you actually got. But yeah, like Bubble Bobble, you entrap enemies, you destroy them, then you go to the next level. It even has that top-down transition like in Bubble Bobble. But yeah, this game is relatively famous. I have seen the arcade versions here and there and a bunch of ports of the game. And apparently this game technically did also come out for Genesis, but only in Japan. And it was popular enough to recently get a remaster for the Nintendo Switch, so yeah, I guess some people like Snow Bros. Me, these types of arcade games have just never been me. And apparently they're not really the Disney Adventures team either, because they only rated it a 3.75, which I believe is the lowest rating we've gotten for a game so far. I don't know, have we gotten one lower? I do not remember. What I do know is these are some very crisp screenshots. Yeah, after a couple months of super grainy, overexposed screenshots, it's nice to see some high quality stuff. I wonder if they used an actual video capture method, or if they just knew how to use their Polaroid camera. But yeah, the screenshots look really good. And of course, if the game looks good, that goes a long way to making me want to buy these. Would I want to buy these if I were a kid and reading about these reviews way back in the day? Probably not. Though, like I've said before, I was actually a PC gamer for most of my life. I only got into console gaming. I didn't get a console until I was 8, and like I said, that was the NES, followed later on by the Genesis, and then several years later I got a Nintendo 64 just so I could have something to play multiplayer with my siblings. And it really wasn't until I entered college that I finally got one of those more modern game consoles, and I decided I was an Xbox guy. So yeah, if I heard about these games back then, I probably wouldn't have given them a second thought, because I just wasn't a console kid back then. But we're not done with video games, because on the very next page there's a double ad for 2 Mickey Mouse games. No wonder Mickey Mouse has such big eyes and ears. Why? Considering the vivid 16-bit graphics and crisp stereo sound of his Sega Genesis video games, Mickey is built just right. Well, technically when you say that you're glad that somebody has big eyes and big ears, and that means that you're jealous that they can see and hear so well. So technically you're saying that the graphics and the sound aren't good enough for the regular game player because it's hard to see and hear the games that you are trying to promote. So yeah, you might want to rethink that one. Journey with him to magnificent lands as he tries frantically to save Minnie from the evil witch Miserabelle in the Castle of Illusion. Or venture into Sega's newest Disney adventure, Fantasia. Oh boy. Based on the actual movie, this game follows Mickey on his quest to become an almighty sorcerer. So if you really like Mickey Mouse, and who doesn't, I've met a few people who don't, check out the Disney products for Sega Genesis. You won't believe your eyes or your ears. Castle of Illusion and Fantasia, the very definition of night and day. Now, Castle of Illusion is an all-time classic. Now, I haven't actually played it, but I really should, because it's not just considered one of the best 16-bit Genesis games, or even one of the best Disney video games, but one of the best video games of all time. It is an absolute classic 16-bit platformer. It basically defined 16-bit platforming back in the day for the system. And yeah, with the crisp graphics and the interesting animations and the, well, it has an overall story, but not a really overarching story. Yeah, but most of these games just told you the story at the beginning and then had you figure it out as you went. But smooth graphics, smooth animations, smooth controls, a great color palette, those all blasted the game into the hearts of many an old school gamer, to the point that it actually got a remaster back in 2013 for the PlayStation and the Xbox and other like consoles. And it also started its own series of games, mostly for the Genesis. In fact, Epic Mickey was originally conceived as a continuation of the series for the Wii. And it kind of sort of got that with a little-known 3DS entry into the series, where the villain of Castle of Illusion appeared in that game, albeit redesigned. But yeah, Castle of Illusion, an all-time classic. If you haven't played it already, then play it. I'm definitely going to play it one of these days. And then we have Fantasia, and it carries the exact opposite reputation of the Castle of Illusion games. If Castle of Illusion is one of the best Disney and 16-bit games out there, then Fantasia is notorious for being one of the worst 16-bit and Disney games out there. I mean, a video game adaptation of Fantasia sounds interesting. I mean, that movie is one of the most imaginative pieces of art ever created. And yeah, I could definitely see Sorcerer Mickey going to all sorts of different levels and fighting off the broomsticks and the dinosaurs and Chernabog, all set to 16-bit renditions of the classical music that accompanied each segment. Yeah, if the platforming is just as creative as the movie, or at the very least as of Castle of Illusion, then yeah, this could have been a great game. It wasn't. It was developed by Infogrames, who, if my more modern audiences haven't heard of them, they were basically Konami before Konami really lost their minds. Infogrames had like 1 or 2 hits, and then they milked their licenses and their hits for all they were worth. They were just infamous for churning out horrible budget shovelware. But they were profitable to the point that they bought Atari lock, stock, and barrel and renamed themselves Atari, and then there were a lot of other mergers and buyouts, and I have no idea what they're going under today or what their catalog is. But yeah, they did to Fantasia what they did to the bulk of their catalog. It went through a very heavy crunch period to get it done in time for the holiday season, which meant that a lot of the stages had to be blandized. They were all basically the same, plus there was no quality testing, there was no testing to check with the difficulty, resulting in a very hard, unforgiving difficulty, especially with respawning enemies. And Mickey was very floaty and hard to control, and often the moves were unresponsive, and the soundtrack, well, okay, didn't really translate well to the 16-bit hardware given their time period. And the final product could be considered, at best, like one of those pirate Disney games, like Hercules 2 or Aladdin 2. One of those Russian-developed unofficial bootleg games for the Genesis that I've played before. So yeah, it is not a good game. In fact, it was so badly received that Roy E. Disney actually led a lawsuit against Infogrames, and they found out that the company wasn't even given the license to create the game, which meant that all unsold copies, like over 5,000 of them, had to be taken off the shelves and destroyed, plus all advertising pulled. Though, of course, that happened late enough in the sales cycle that you can still find a copy of the game for a relatively good price. You know, if you want this wretched abomination as part of your collection. So yeah, it's the very definition of great concept, horrible execution. So yeah, play this, not this. This, not this. Winner, loser. Also down here we have, I guess, every single Genesis game that was released up to this time, like the entire Genesis library. I don't know, it's too blurry to make out any of the titles. Is 10 Gen's Tetris down here? You know, the one that they technically didn't have the license to make, even though they thought they did, and therefore it had to be pulled from store shelves and also destroyed? I don't know, nor do I think we ever will. Oh, and that's how you know that this is made in the 90s. Warning, Genesis is far too graphic for tender young minds. Yeah, because the 90s were just so anti-authority and rebellious. If it drove your parents insane, well, then you knew that it was good for you. And here's some more Minnie and Me collector cards. Yeah, I think we already ran into an ad of these. It's just Minnie Mouse being Minnie Mouse, hanging out with her girlfriends, shopping, playing with her pets, baking a cake, apparently. Now, I have come across these cards in the past, but did we include them in that subscription crate that I keep bringing up? I don't believe we did, though if we did, that wasn't my section at that time. And here we go with our traditional DuckTales comic in DuckTales, Slugabubba. Oh, great, it's a Bubba-themed comic. You know, that cave duck that was brought into the show at the beginning of the second season and nobody likes. Like, everybody loves Gizmo Duck. Gizmo Duck appeared around the same time, but nobody likes Bubba. Or his little Triceratops friend. Now, of course, I'm talking about the original Bubba. I do not know what the Bubba is like in the newer version of DuckTales. Maybe it's an improvement, maybe it's a worse character, but I don't know. One of these days I'm going to have to sit down and watch that show.
The Ducks attempt to teach Bubba Duck the fine game of baseball.
Okay, Bubba, try to hit the ball. I'll pitch it real slow.
Also, we're back to the nephews in their black shirts and their black striped hats, because that was easier to draw, apparently. Smack!
Wow, I didn't know baseballs went that far. Bubba Flubba?
No! Bubba hit a home run! Well, that's not a regulation-sized baseball bat, so I don't think you're going to have that exact same luck in the actual field.
That's good! In fact, that's great! Maybe he was just lucky. Dewey, give him your best stuff!
I'm pretty sure that word balloon was supposed to go to Louie there, because otherwise Dewey just second-guessed himself there. But he throws the ball again, and wham! And somewhere in Tallahassee, somebody's window is shattered, as well as their skull because they were standing right next to it.
A little later,
another home run! Still think he was just lucky? Nobody's lucky 27 times in a row!
Also, you completely depleted your baseball stash there, and knowing your uncle, that's the last baseball you're ever gonna see.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Uncle Scrooge!
Not now, kids. I'm buying a fish farm by fax, a train terminal by telex, and a flotilla of freighters by phone.
And only one of those I think most modern audiences will know what that is.
This is more important than fritters!
Not fritters, fritters. What fritters? You'll stay out of this.
Well, that's the guy you're trying to make a deal with, so the deal's off now.
Fun, great, wonderful. Kids, we'll talk later. Now go away now.
Okay, Uncle Scrooge. You can make a fortune on this later.
I'll call you back.
Yep, said his trigger word there.
Fortune? Did you say fortune?
Uh-huh.
No matter how busy I get, I always make time for my nephews. And you too, dear Webby. I keep forgetting that you're a character in my life.
Bubba can hit the ball a mile. Watch. Okay, Dewey, pitch him one. Your Super Curvo Fastball Supreme.
And unfortunately, we don't get to see this one, but we do get to see Scrooge McDuck's eyes turn to dollar signs, which I think you need to see a doctor about.
See? He hits a home run every time.
Quick, how do I buy a baseball team? I want the Duckburg Websters. I'll make a mint. Bubba will hit home runs, they'll win games, and I'll get the championship cup.
Is that like a coffee cup?
No, laddie, it's solid gold, worth a fortune.
So I looked it up, and apparently at times baseball did have a World Cup, but no, it was never made out of solid gold. I think you're thinking of like the soccer World Cup. Also, the value of the championship cup is nothing compared to the endorsements your team would be getting if you really are a championship team. Because that's actually how baseball teams make money. That's how sports players walk away with millions of dollars a year. So if you're just worried about winning a championship cup to make money, well, you're gonna run your team into the ground.
At the next Webster ball game, this is Bucky Ducks giving you the play-by-play of the day. Next up is the newest member of the Websters, Bubba Duck.
There are like a million different rules and regulations that would prevent something like this from happening, but, Saturday morning cartoon from the 80s.
The pitcher delivers, Bubba swings, and connects! The center fielder goes back! Now he's going up! He's in a position to make the catch! And it soars right through his glove!
Which, if it was going that fast, then technically the commentator wouldn't have been able to even follow the ball. It would be out of the park before anybody even knew what happened. Also, Scrooge is lucky that the catcher lost his mitt right at that second, otherwise he'd be facing one hefty lawsuit from the opposing team. Who am I kidding? He's a gazillionaire. He'd just buy his way out of it, not even have to pay a cent to the player.
Later in the game,
this giant glove will cook that Bubba Duck's goose. Okay, 1, where did you even get that glove? Why would your team have a glove that big? 2, cooking that Bubba Duck's goose? So geese are a sentient species in this universe. Why would this universe come up with a saying suggesting that the certain species should be plucked and stuffed and cooked? This is one messed up universe. But yeah, the glove, at least the glove protects his hand in this one, but it does send him back over the fence. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that snaps his back in half. And once again, a lawsuit.
Whoa! Another home run for Bubba! And a bit later, Bubba clobbers a line drive up the middle!
Bah! This time I'm ready for anything. Why would your team have any of this stuff for a baseball game? Not that it does anything anyway, because he's knocked senseless and into his underwear, which even the horse is wearing, ha 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 ha.
Except that, you guessed it folks, home run!
If this was an actual game of baseball, then technically the manager should have Bubba showing up to bat every 4th spot. Well, every 4th to 6th spot. So that way the players will load the bases, and then Bubba can hit his home run and turn it into a grand slam home run. And that's how you get the points in the game.
After the game, help! Slugga Bubba hit 47 home runs today. Was that your idea, Mr. McDuck?
Stay away from those peanuts, you overgrown armadillo!
Attention, foul, dinosaur on the field, 10-point penalty. But elsewhere, Flintheart's Glumgold listens in. Mr. McDuck, it looks like the Websters will win the Gold Cup. Did you expect to succeed so easily? Yes, with Bubba's batting and my Culkin experience, victory was certainly certain.
Okay, so Glomgold, he was one of the biggest arch rivals of Scrooge McDuck. He was like the 2nd richest duck in the world. And I don't remember how he sounds. I think he was just like a little bit of a more high-pitched Scrooge McDuck. I mean, he was voiced by the same guy who voiced Gyro in the show, so...
No! I want that gold cup! I want it! Scrooge can't have it! And what Flintheart Glumgold wants, Flintheart Glumgold gets! I'll have to buy a team to battle Scrooge's team! Where's the sports section? Here! The Budsville Blammers are in 2nd place! I'll buy the Blammers and hire the Beagle Boys to booby trap Scrooge's stooges! The gold cup will be mine!
Can you really buy a sports team this late into the season? Because you're about to win the championship cup. I don't know if a business deal like this can take place. Also, the Beagle Boys are out of jail again. I don't know. They're always in jail or out of jail or at their hideout or out of their hideout. I don't know.
That night...
Lower that sheet of ultra-clear plastic. Are you sure this is gonna work? Course I am. When Scrooge's team comes up to bat, we'll crank up this here plastic wall over the outfield fence. Every ball headed out of the park hits the plastic and bounces back onto the field. Presto! No home runs for that cave clown Bubba.
Clunk. Ow! Ha-ha! Works great! Big time! Show me again!
All the electromagnets are buried like you told me, but I don't get it.
I don't know how many Beagle Boys there are currently working on this, so I'm probably giving them different voices than I should be.
Me neither! How is filling baseballs with ball bearings gonna help the Blammers win? Sampa, toss one over the plate and I'll show you. Sure, here goes. You see, with this joystick, I control the magnets and they pull on the ball bearings. I can make the ball fly all crazy and Scrooge's batters lose their minds and their game. Ha!
That's actually ingenious, to bury like a magnet in the ground and then fill the balls with metal fillings and throw off the batter's game. Honestly, I could see something like that actually being used to cheat. Clunk. Ow!
If you don't lose yours first, ha ha ha. At the championship game between the Websters and the Blammers, strike 3, you're out! Next up for the Websters, Slugga Bubba!
Again, there are a billion reasons why this guy would not be at the baseball team, but what do I care? Even with the baseball going crazy, he still hits the ball. It's a long fly ball! Dunk, 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 blah. Slugga Bubba is out again, as well as all 4 of those baseball players, since these guys all having concussions, including this guy now needing a full new dental set, are all out of the game for the next season.
You're up to something fishy, Flintheart. I can smell it. Ha! You don't know baseball from birdseed, Scrooge. We'll see about that, you feather-brained fowl. I'll find your cheap tricks yet.
I don't know about Cheap Trick, but 38 Special is playing at the stadium next door.
Cheap! They cost a bundle, and it will all be worth it when I get the gold cup.
And apparently Scrooge is so bent out of shape that his mouth has adopted the size and shape of a high-heel shoe. You should really get that looked at, man.
A little later, it's a triple play! That brings up the Websters for their last time at bat. The Blammers still lead 1-0.
So they've gone 9 innings without scoring a single point? Wow, this is one of the quickest games of baseball on record.
Peanuts, get your... Yikes! Uh-oh. Help! Wait for me! Stop!
Why is the dinosaur on the field? You'd think that Scrooge would have developed a dinosaur leash by now. Also, the Triceratops breaks the remote control, so I guess that means an end to the whole ball bearings in the baseball scheme.
Scrooge inspects the outfield.
Well, no sign of Flintheart's dirty tricks out here. Okay, boys, the Websters are coming to bat. Crank up the plastic, quick! Bust me bagpipes! I'm blasting off!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure anybody would see that plastic shielding and call foul on it, especially if it's thick enough to carry a grown duck off the ground. So what were they trying to do here?
It's a hit! The Websters have a man on base with Slugga Bubba up next!
So hey, maybe they don't even need Slugga Bubba. If they can hit the ball again, then maybe they can just win the game by themselves. Have you thought of that?
Bubba! See Uncle Scrooge up there? Hit it over him!
See, everybody already sees the plastic shielding, so what was your plan?
It's a home run! The Websters are the new champions!
I'm pretty sure that's not how baseball works. And despite getting a home run, Bubba still decided to shatter the plastic shielding, which I'm pretty sure plastic does not break like that, even if hit by a bat.
Bubba, we have to get Uncle Scrooge down!
And he gets Uncle Scrooge down, and he breaks every bone in his body. Which, hey, he's rich. He'll probably have them all replaced with ceramic bones by tomorrow.
Well, boys, they won the Gold Cup fair and square.
Don't just stand there! Steal it from them!
Oh yeah, that's gonna get you far.
Look out! Coming through!
And the dinosaur stampede's over, everyone.
So the Beagle Boys are at the bottom of this. You're all under arrest. We'll sort out who later.
Yeah, charge us with something or let us go, Coppa. This gives me an idea. Bubba would be great at football.
No, that position is already filled by Bubba's friend, Gump. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. And here's another one of those NFL advertisements about brain power as well as body power.
Think about it. Knowledge is power. Train your brain. Study.
And it's somewhat of an advertisement for the NFL Pro Set football cards. But yeah, as I've said before, a lot of major celebrities in entertainment do have degrees in other fields. So while you're working on entertaining, get a degree in another field. At the very least, once your star has fallen, it'll give you something to fall back on. And here's an ad for the USA Network. Yeah, they keep promoting the interview with Andre Agassi, and honestly, did anyone even back then even watch this network? I don't think so. And speaking of sports stars, here's an article about King of the Beach, St. Smith. Not only is he one of the best volleyball players in the world, but he's technically one of the first champion volleyball players, period. This guy is actually one of the people responsible for getting volleyball seen as a championship sport. He and his longtime volleyball partner, Randy Stoklos, won dozens, if not hundreds, of regional volleyball tournaments, and by the mid-'80s helped found the Beach Volleyball World Council, taking the sport worldwide and putting it, well, on the same tier as baseball and soccer and football and all those other major sports. It was even recognized as a sport and featured in the Olympics, which St. Smith also competed in. And he actually competed for quite a while. He was a teenager when he first started in like the 70s, and he competed until the early 2000s when he finally retired in his mid-40s. But he still continues to make sure that beach volleyball is a real sport, is considered a real competitive sport. And yeah, even when this article was printed, he was making it big. Not only was he a huge-time championship volleyball player, but he also owned a restaurant and a clothing company, clothing store. He had a Honda Civic. A lot of time to train. Yeah, I envy this guy. I know I was joking about them running out of real sports stars in the last issue, but with everything that this guy has accomplished, I'm jealous of him just on how much he's accomplished alone. I don't even care what he plays, just the fact that he's managed to do all this stuff, and he continues to be so passionate about the sport and his career. What else can I say but... Also, he appeared in the NES volleyball game Kings of the Beach and the sports volleyball movie Side Out, which it was the early 90s. Of course, there was a sports movie about volleyball. You know, they had hang gliding, they had basketball, they had baseball, they had every single somewhat professional sport had to be a movie in the early 90s. And here's an article about the Lamborghini, in particular, the Lamborghini LM002. Yeah, this was a weird time in the company's history where the company, who of course is well known for their super expensive luxury sports cars, decided to try to break into the more hardy utility vehicle market. So they unveiled a line called the Lamborghini Militaria, and it was supposed to have a lot of different utility vehicles, but the LM002 was the only one that was actually released, and it got decent sales, not enough for them to keep it in production for that long, and the project was eventually scrapped. And they wouldn't try another utility vehicle until 2019 with the Ursus. Did they do well there? I don't know. All I know is that I will never see a Lamborghini in my life, because even to stare at a Lamborghini would cost more than I can ever dream to make in my life. And here's another sports club where we can get merchandise based off of Bo Jackson, you know, that incredibly famous football and baseball player. So we got two fan bases in one. And apparently, if we join Club Bo, then we get a Bo Jackson t-shirt and a poster of Bo. And by just getting that kitsch, our lives will be turned completely around because we will be seen as the best kids in school. We will be voted most cool and most likely to marry Miss Mississippi. Ha ha ha. And then we will become ambassador to Hawaii. We will fly a helicopter. We will buy Italy and a football team. And tomorrow we will travel to Mars and meet with the Avengers. And we will discover brand new galaxies, and we will conquer universes. And we will finally get that gum off our shoes that we've been picking at since the 6th grade. Now here's something new. This is a Goofy comic. We have not had a Goofy comic yet. In fact, I think that this replaces the Big Adventures comics that we've been getting. You know, the sort of non-fiction comics that we've been seeing in other issues that basically go over those facts that made up the main feature of the issue. So no, we didn't get any of that. We're just getting regular comedy comics based on Disney franchises. Which on the one hand, I don't know, I think having those nonfiction comics in these issues is a good thing. It provides both entertainment and knowledge. It lets kids learn something while looking at some great artwork. I mean, like I say, it's too boring for me to read through for these videos, but I think it's great for the casual reader. But, on the other hand, I can actually read through these comics. So, hey, let's see what Goofy's first comic venture in one of these issues is like. Also see how horribly I botched Goofy's voice.
Yuck! So there I was, rounding up the wagons, when suddenly I was under attack. Oh my gosh, Indians! Don't know what I did, but it sure looks like I'm in trouble.
Well, because you call them Indians, dude. We don't call them Indians. We don't even call them Native Americans. They're indigenous peoples.
Wonder why he's running away. Me too. We just wanted to tell him to make sure he put out his campfire when he was done.
I'm not gonna stop using that voice for them, though.
Well, no one was gonna make a fool out of old Goofy, so I hightailed it out of there and made my escape into the river. I thought now I was safe, 'cause that's when things got real bad. Yuck! Oops! I am Mr. Shark. Hungry?
No, he's just wondering if you want to play cards with him.
Here, sure hope you like these sugar-coated shark Chewios. They come complete with 21 essential vitamins, including chocolate. Yuck!
So he just has shark food on him for dire emergencies. Actually, I can believe that Goofy would have something like that on him.
After that, things got real crazy. I climbed up out of the river and found myself on a huge mountain. So I started to climb it. It was snowing and hailing and tornadoing and hurricaning, and I met this guy named Hillary who was also climbing up the mountain and accidentally pushed him off. I'm sure he's okay, but I didn't let anything stop me. Shucks, it must have taken me days to reach the top of that mountain, but finally I made it. There's also this superhero named Concrete at the top of the mountain. I wanted to get his autograph, but all my paper blew away. But once I reached the top, this spaceship zoomed out of nowhere and attacked me. So I had to fight the spaceship, free the planet Zombonia from an evil ruler, rescue a princess, then make it back to Earth. And that's why I haven't been able to fix your video machine, Mickey.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bop. Actually, with its short length and how he was talking up a certain shark food, I wonder if this was technically an aborted ad. Like, I wonder if they wrote and drew an ad for, I don't know, Hostess Fruit Pies or Captain Crunch cereal or something. But the sponsor pulled out at the last minute, and so they went, okay, change a few dialogue lines, and we'll salvage the comic. We'll just see if we have an empty space in one of our issues, and you can put it in there. Because that sort of thing actually happens more often than you'd think. And we've come to our story time. Yeah, instead of one of the Case Busters stories that they seem to be putting in these issues, this is one of the more original stories that we've also been seeing. One of these short stories. And once again, I'm not going to read through this. I'm sorry, I think it's more fun if you read it yourself. But I will summarize it, so if you don't want me to summarize it, then mute the video for a couple seconds while you hit pause and zoom in on the text. Okay, so anyway, these two kids, they decide that they're bored, and so they build a giant monster costume, and they scare off some fishermen, and the monster becomes so popular that the news crews are brought in, and the hunters are brought in, and they try to do their stunt all over again, but eventually they get caught, and they think that they're going to be punished severely, but it turns out that their hoax is a hit, and it drew in tourism to an area of town that really needed it, so they're hailed as heroes, and they give their monster costume to some hunters, and everybody drives away happy. And also, the actual monster of the lake may exist, but who knows, and who can ever say. And here's yet another contest! Man, these magazines feel like they're like 1/4 comics and 1/8 contests and another 1/8 advertisements. They're kind of running out of substance, is what I'm trying to say. But in this case, it's the Mission from Mars Halloween Party Sweepstakes, where we can win a Halloween party, plus lots of other great prizes, including the grand prize, where we will win super spooky Halloween party supplies for you and 25 of your friends, including Mission from Mars Halloween costumes for you and all your friends, bags of Halloween candy from M&M's, of course, party favors, and a subscription to Disney Adventures. And if I entered the contest, it would be for the Halloween costumes and the subscription to Disney Adventures. Also, 25 first prize winners will receive a cassette from Hollywood Records' hot teen sensation The Party, because like I said, I think that they overestimated how popular that band would be, and they had to resort to contests to give those things away. And then second prizes would receive a great box of candy from M&M's Mars. That alone sounds worth it to enter the contest. So all you gotta do is fill out that form and send it in and, well, hope. Now, this actually sounded really interesting, and I looked into it, and it was actually a little hard to get information on. But from what I could find, M&M's had this promotional event at one point called, well, Mission from Mars, where these little alien things came from Mars and they were after candy because it powered their spaceship or something like that. But the main goal of the promotion was actually to promote a Hanna-Barbera TV special called The Last Halloween, which featured these characters, again, wandering Earth on Halloween getting candy because they ran out on Mars. And it took me a while to connect Mission from Mars to The Last Halloween because, well, for one, the names are completely different. I don't know why they didn't include Mission from Mars in, like, The Last Halloween to tie things together. Also, the character models between the commercials and the special are slightly different, so I don't know. I didn't know who created whom. I don't know what the models were originally used for. In fact, I don't even know if this was a promotion for the special. I don't know if the special was created to promote the M&M's contest, or if the contest was created to promote the special. I could find very little information about that. But they did also produce Mission from Mars Dixie Cups, and that's what finally tied the Last Halloween in with Mission from Mars when I was doing my research. And yes, the TV special does still exist to this day. It was made by Hanna-Barbera, and in a departure from their usual fare, it was actually a live-action CGI hybrid. Again, featuring aliens that are looking for candy, but also a town that's going through an economic crisis because their candy factory has to close down because it's literally run dry. Apparently, it runs on water power, and the lake surrounding the factory has literally run dry. And it's all because of a mad scientist played by Rhea Perlman, and, you know, it's actually not that bad a special. I mean, okay, technically it is a bad special, but it's just filled to the brim with that classic 90s cheese. It is one of the cheesiest early 90s cheese fests you will ever cheesily watch. And for that reason, it is almost a must-watch. It is one of the first TV specials to incorporate live-action actors with CGI models. And for 1991, the models are actually rendered and rigged pretty decently. They even remembered to give them all drop shadows, which is surprisingly easy to forget for a low-budget production like that. But yeah, specials on YouTube. I recommend you go watch it. It has Rhea Perlman hamming it up as a mad scientist. It has Frank Welker doing his Dr. Claw voice. What's not to love? And we've reached our final comic, another Tailspin comic, and a really short one. I don't know, I wonder if they had a feature in here that they couldn't put in it on time, so they just really quickly commissioned the Goofy comic and this comic, and or maybe they had them on standby just in case they had some empty pages to fill. Who knows? But this comic is called Tailspin, Catch of the Day.
Hello, victim person. It is myself, the ever-plentiful Don Carnage. Prepare to be ransacked.
Get that overgrown back scratcher off my plane, Carnage. I already told you on the radio, I'm on vacation. I got no cargo, there's nothing to steal in here.
Well, if you didn't use that excuse every other time you met the pirates, then maybe he would have believed you.
I am not believing you, Malou. See, you are hiding stealable goodies and all this junkety stuff here. Don Carnage sees through your flimsy deceptives.
Also, yikes. You know how I was saying that the previous Tailspin comic is probably the best drawn, best inked, most cinematic comic we've probably seen in Disney Adventures so far? Yeah, this is the exact opposite. This looks like it was all done in one afternoon, which, like I said, if this was commissioned just to fill in space, well, probably was. We're going fishing on the island of Looty Booty. Why else would we be dressed like this? I don't know, Baloo has finally pushed you over the edge and you've mixed those up with your business clothes?
to try and fool my most clever self. For instance, you did not think I did not notice this innocent box of kitty-type toys. But maybe you put jewels in here, Or gold coins, perhaps. Put that down! That's mine!
Yeah, while you're here, Don Carnage, could you please throw her out the plane door?
Look, Captain, fishing gear. Maybe they're telling the truth.
Oh, Baloo, the jig is up. They found the secret government spy equipment.
Secret government spy equipment?
Huh?
You know, Baloo, this electromagnetic bulletproof body net.
Oh, yeah, and this, ultra-sensitive nano-ergonomical, booster radio antennae.
I wanted to make a joke about how the government already assigns incredibly complex names to normal, everyday instruments, but, I can't remember any. Yes, and this, miniaturized stratospheric, secret code transmitter.
Oh, this is Excelamundo. I have never plundered spy equipment before.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it, unless you want some weird plague doctor-like character dressed in either white or black to rip you to shreds with it. And apparently, even though the pirates already grabbed all the equipment, the three somehow managed to grab it all back and defeat the pirates with it, including tangling them up in the fish line, netting them in the net, and... Why is there a boxing glove and a jack-in-the-box? Why would Rebecca give her kid that? I guess she's as tired of her as we are. Anyway, they tie up the pirates back there, put them on their hook, and they have no way of getting pulled back into their ship, so they run into a building and they die.
Good call, Little Britches. Too bad the catch of the day was so puny we had to throw it back. Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bop.
Again, I don't hate Rebecca there, so I guess that makes it a good Tailspin comic. And here's an ad for Little Mermaid cards. You know, this is something we put on our subscription boxes. I definitely remember these, as well as the Beauty and the Beast cards. And if you ever find your own full set of them, they're worth about $15. And we finally reached our games section. So we got Water Racket, it's a maze. I'll let you figure out that maze yourself. And next. You can make these words by starting with the letters C-A-T and adding a tail. Can you catch them all? No, because this is years before Pokemon, unfortunately. Okay, herd of cows, that's cattle. Hot dog condiment, that's ketchup. Ketchup, catsup. Ketchup, catsup. Baseball position, that's catcher, obviously. Library filing system, that's catalog. Baby butterfly, that's caterpillar. And sea creature, I'm guessing is catfish. Hey, what do you know? I swept the board. I guess I'm better with cats than with the sun. Liftoff. Can you get from here to Mars in 10 steps? You figure out all the words here, where these go in relation to getting from here to Mars, and, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna do this, so, you can figure it out yourself. Build a word. Match the word in each saw with the word in each hammer to create a new word, then write your answers on the lines below. No thank you. The Scrambler. Take the letters in 12 plus 1 and put them through the Scrambler by following the path from each letter to the answer circles below. Write the proper letter in each circle and you will find another equation with the same answer. The paths go over and under each other, so don't stop when the paths cross. No. And there's the answer page in case you were too lazy to go through the actual puzzles, as I was. And have we done this Captain Crunch thing? I don't remember. It looks different enough, but I don't know. How many have we gone through of these? Like 4 or 5? I think they're all just very slight variations on each other. So today, the captain, what does the captain want us to do?
Let's go to the Crazy Crunch Zoo! And if you can find a box of my yummy cereal, the Peanut Butter Crunch Bird, the Crunchberry Bush, and the Soggies, I'll send you a surprise!
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Okay, where is everybody this time? There's Peanut Butter Crunch right there. Well, there's another box of Captain Crunch. Do I get bonus points for circling them both? There's the bush. There's the bush. What else were we looking for? Cereal, Crunch Bird. Okay, so we need the Crunch Bird and the Soggies. Bird. There's the bird. There's a bird. Have you heard about the bird? The bird's the word. Also, there's 3 monkeys doing the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Ha ha ha, like a lot of kids are going to get that. Also, there's an alligator using a person as a suitcase. Well, suits him right. Of course, this zoo isn't any better, considering they just stuffed a giant blue whale in a tiny water dish, so... Yeah, they're gonna get a really nasty call from PETA. Let's see, we got a rhino and a zebra on a skateboard. Hey, whatever brings in the tourists. And this guy was not taught to not feed the animals. A big long snake, a bear, some kind of pig thing that my camera really hates because it does not want to focus on it. Oh, there they are. There they are. There's the soggies. Okay, we found them all. We won the contest. Let's go back in time and tell everybody that we won the contest. In our next Disney Adventures, it's a Halloween issue, so we get monsters, baseball cards, scary story contest winner. Ooh, I wonder who won the computer. And the Bat Kid, and, well, wait a minute, the Bat Kid. Oh no, I thought they were going to talk about the Bat Kid from Weekly World News, but no, it's just some guy who keeps bats as pets. So, yeah, that could be interesting as well. Plus video game reviews. Ooh, I can hardly wait. And to close us off, we get another survey. Yes, we got a music survey in the last issue, and now this is an Eco-Kid Poll Earth survey. They're wondering how Earth conscious we are and if we would be likely recruits for Greenpeace. Okay, let's see. Let's go through this. Do you recycle at home? Yes, no, we want to, but there's no recycling center nearby. Kind of all three for my household. We recycle paper, we recycle a lot of cardboard, we take that to the recycling center whenever we remember. I want to recycle cans and soda cans, but we don't have a place to drop those off, so that doesn't happen. What do you recycle? Well, like I said, we recycle newspaper and school paper and any other kind of paper, I guess, and that's pretty much it. Do you ever have to remind your parents to recycle? Well, they don't listen to me. Well, the other people in the house, I should say, don't listen to me about recycling. Do you always use both sides of a piece of paper? Yes, usually. I always do use paper as much as I can. I mean, when I'm drawing something, then yes, I will use both sides of a piece of paper because I don't see the sense of just using one side, especially since it's easier to find my drawings that way if they're all on one piece of paper as much as I can get on there. Do you turn off the water when you're brushing your teeth? Yes, I do. I don't see the sense of leaving the water on when I brush my teeth. You know, I have seen in some cultures they fill up the sink and then they spit the toothpaste into the filled up sink. I don't get that. What's the point? That just sounds like a complete waste of water. Have you or your school class adopted any animals? Yes, some cats showed up on our porch a couple years ago and they wouldn't go away, so we adopted them. If yes, what kind? Well, like I said, some cats. I have some cats that live with me now. Do you shut the lights off when you leave a room? Well, I guess it depends on if I'm planning to come back into the room or not. I mean, sometimes I plan to come back into the room, but I forget, so I leave the lights on. My trailer is not positioned well to catch the sunlight, so even in the middle of the day, I get basically no light in my room, so yeah, I have to have the lights on almost all day. Do you walk, ride your bike, or take public transportation wherever you can instead of asking your parents to drive you? Well, as much as I'd like to walk or ride my bike or take public transportation, most places I go on a regular basis are miles and miles away from where I live, so I can't afford to walk or take a bike or spend hours on public transportation. Also, I go shopping for interesting stuff quite often, and, well, I can't fit it all on a bike or public transportation, so yeah, I drive regularly, unfortunately. If you had $1 billion to spend on the environment, what would you spend it on? Pick one only. Water, air, saving animals, recycling, planting trees. Definitely cleaning the water. In quite a few places, including where I live, the water has become so tainted that it's almost toxic. Like you have to really run it through purifiers before it becomes safe to drink. We had a recent health crisis in my area where large amounts of lead was found in the drinking water. So since then, I have been using water purifiers to drink out of. So, yeah, gotta get to cleaning the water, because otherwise we're all gonna die of thirst. Do you think Earth will be a cleaner, greener place in the future? No, I think we've already done irreparable harm to our ecosystem, and even if we have World War III and the bombs fall and the world population is reduced to like 1 million and we have to start civilization all over, I don't think we're gonna have the materials or the land mass to get back to where we are now. I think that we have just done so much damage to the land and the water and the air that we'll probably kill ourselves off just trying to survive. Yeah, I have a very pessimistic outlook on humanity, sorry.
Bonus, write a rap, make it green, write about the eco scene. Tell us how you feel about Planet 3, why it's the best place for you and me. I don't think I will. And fill out all your information there. I read Disney Adventures P3, the Earth-based magazine for kids. Well, obviously Disney Adventures. I don't know, did this exact same poll in this exact same format also appear in P3? Probably. But no, I never even heard of that magazine until just now. But from what I found, it was a short-lived ecology-based magazine for kids. And I mean very short-lived. It only lasted 4 issues from late 1990 to early 1991. And nowadays the P3 name is reserved for the Progressive Products Preview magazine, which, well, talks about the latest tech and how it can help you and your business. Kind of the opposite of what the P3 name originally stood for. Here's another ad from Mickey's Dangerous Chase and Who Framed Roger Rabbit for the Game Boy. We already went over that. And we end on another Jet Set ad. And this is really good. This is a really good Jet Set ad. Okay, not only is the product that they're trying to push right in the forefront, so you can easily tell what they want to sell you, but look at these weird squares. I don't know what these squares are, but they're like little arrows that are pointing directly at what they want to sell. Instantly grabbing your attention. Heck, you can even easily miss the soda jerk behind them with the ice cream, but he's not actually part of the ad, so who cares? So yeah, this is a really good ad. I think this ad should be taught in advertising classes in college to show how to do a print ad correctly. We've seen a lot of bad ads, but this is a good ad. I still couldn't care less about their hilariously outdated fashions, but hey, at least the photo shoot guys knew what they were doing. We believe that children should be seen as well as heard. Yeah, we've heard that before, as well as have seen it. And there we have the September 1991 issue of Disney Adventures. Whew, that was actually quite packed, wasn't it? This might turn out to be one of my longest episodes. Or at the very least, it took the longest to film all this footage. So, what have we learned this time? That Macaulay Culkin is one cool dude, until he decided not to be one cool dude, but now he's back to being one cool dude. That if you're rich enough, you can Shanghai a mentally handicapped 10-year-old into playing baseball for you. That Fantasia 2000 and early 2000s R&B singers are not the most embarrassing things to bear the Fantasia name. And if you have an exciting enough escape story, then Disney will gladly make a movie based on your adventure. Unless it bombs, then they will cut all ties with it. Yep, I think that'll do us for this week. So, if you liked the video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It's how these videos get noticed, and it encourages me to keep making them. And if you want to be really awesome, please check out my Patreon. For only $1, I will list you at the end of these videos, and for only $5, I will shout your name to anyone who will listen that you are the greatest guy to give me $5. But whatever you decide, stay awesome, be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next week for another edition of Disney Adventures.